Curtis, we have seen the future of gaming on PlayStation 5. What do you think?
I have. I've seen it. I think I have a lot of thoughts. I'm excited. I think now that it's like it feels real now. And so it's been hard to like not think about it over the past few days.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it a lot, and I feel like, and it certainly we'll get into it, I feel like the more it's gone on, the more I'm liking what I saw. But again, just to get right into it, before we go to the future, we have to go to the past. We have this little montage of all of the Sony different things, and I loved how like they put up like the what console it was. So we even got into the next game, was like GTA 5, and it has like PS4. It's like, oh right, it's like, I love how like they make this disclaimer, like you're looking at PlayStation 4 footage, where it's like, no, it's not the PS5 yet. I thought that was kind of interesting, but
I appreciated the like attempt at that at the first like couple minutes of this press conference, we'll call it, but like I really feel like the execution was lacking a bit, because it was just kind of weird. It was kind of weird to be like, okay, we're gonna do the setup of like, this is the year the PS1 launched, the year the PS2, PS3, PS4, and like then it was just a bunch of PS4 footage. Some of which were games that like were on the PS3, but it was the PS4 footage.
Yep.
And then it was the Rockstar logo, and you're like, oh,
and everybody's
all right.
heart stopped for like a minute.
Right. For like there was a lot of parts of this showcase that I for 5 or 10 seconds I was like, oh my god, it's X, it's whatever. So this was the first, and so for about 5 seconds I was like, oh my god, Agent's real.
Oh yeah.
That or like Bully 2, right?
Yeah.
No, was not the case.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know if this is even like part of the main show. I mean, I guess you can, because it's like part of the video, but like this Grand Theft Auto 5 announcement, enhanced and something else, whatever they said, for PlayStation 5 coming 2021. It almost just seemed like a side announcement to like the main core. It seemed like a pre-show announcement.
Yeah, and I guess we should like, obviously, I don't want to like come across like we're missing the forest for the trees, right? Obviously, this is a big deal.
Yeah,
having GTA 5 on on your console, like doing the whole, hey, if you own it now, you're getting like $1 million GTA bucks on GTA Online every single month until this comes out sometime next year. Like, obviously, if you look at the sales for that game, just for like the past 50,000 years, like it's obviously a huge deal. But I cannot think of a worse way to start than this.
It was weird. I would agree with that. It was kind of a weird announcement.
It would be one thing if what they were showing was like the PS5 version of GTA 5, but it wasn't even that.
Right.
It was just like a couple minutes of old footage, like a footage. This game was a PlayStation 3 game. Which one is kind of crazy. I saw like somebody on Twitter was like, yeah, GTA 5, Minecraft, and I don't remember the third one they mentioned, of like these games that have just existed across now 3 generations of hardware, which is like a testament to itself. But yeah, it was just like, oh, here's a bunch of PS4 footage for a couple minutes, and we're not going to show you anything of the enhanced version coming out at some point next year. It was just odd. It was weird.
There was like no point for them to even show PS4 footage. Like, it literally could have just been that black screen, just like, hey, guess what?
Yeah.
Rockstar logo, Grand Theft Auto 5 coming to PlayStation 5. Owners, whatever, get GTA cash. And it's like, but yeah, they showed this like 2.5 minute trailer of like old GTA Online footage. That's like, okay, like the show's supposed to start, I think.
So,
I don't know.
Stumbling out the gates, but they very quickly regained their footing.
Yeah,
I would say.
Yeah, we got to see old Jim Ryan out there talking about, we're gonna let the games do the talking. And so our first game, you see like kind of electricity going off, and for some reason I immediately thought like Infamous thing maybe.
So I did too. There's like a fist punching through something, and so there's lightning coming out from it. I guess I'll say, like, I guess I'm not familiar enough with Miles Morales as a character to just be like, oh yeah, he's got like lightning powers.
Yeah.
So my mind did not go to that
Mm-hmm.
until you can see a little bit of like his chin of like that mask.
Yeah.
But I was on the page with you for a few seconds. I was like, are we getting another Infamous?
Yeah, I heard the voice actor talking. I was like, okay, that sounds familiar. I didn't immediately put that to Peter Parker's voice actor from Spider-Man, and then like, yeah, then it was like, go be a hero, Miles, and like you see, it was actually Miles right there. I'll say Spider-Man Miles Morales might be one of my favorite trailers, even though there's not much to it. It's probably one of my favorite trailers of this entire showcase, and I think, other than of course GTA 5, I think it's probably the game I would have picked to start off this entire showcase.
It's a really good, like, I think it's really easy, especially once you get a few games in even towards the end of this showcase. Like, it's super easy to forget about GTA 5. And just be like, wow, they opened with Spider-Man. That's cool. I think the most exciting part about this, like, well, one, it feels reminiscent of like The Last of Us, like that first reveal of the first game, where you're like, it's way too early for another Naughty Dog thing. So you don't even expect it. Yeah. And I think, everyone was expecting a Ratchet and Clank game, which we'll get to in a little bit. But I think like pretty universally, Spider-Man 2, or the idea of more Spider-Man, was like, it's a little too soon. We'll get Ratchet first. So that's super cool. What's also really cool about it is the release window. It's holiday 2020, which could mean a few different things. I feel like for a lot of these, that means launch.
I think so, yeah.
There's always a chance this could be like a couple weeks later, or it could get pushed back. But as it stands right now, like, I'm considering this a launch game, which is really cool.
Yeah, I think that was my favorite part. Like, even just like watching like other people's reactions of like different, YouTube channels and stuff like that. I love the like, oh wow, Spider-Man Miles Morales, and then then it shows the holiday 2020, and then that's just like the whoa, that's crazy. But yeah, there was a lot of confusion about this. There was going on. There was a Sony executive somewhere that I had never heard of. Made some comment saying that it was going to be...
They keep crawling out of the woodwork.
Yeah. Yeah, about it. Like, apparently it's supposedly going to be included in a remaster of the original game, which I could maybe see that because, they ran the original PS4 game on the tech demo and everything like that.
So they clarified what this is, but they never really denied that existed, which...
That's true.
I feel like makes sense. Like, if you remember that first article and... Was it Wired? It was in Wired, right?
Yeah, the first two Wired.
They were showing Spider-Man to like demo the SSD on the PS5. And so like I wouldn't be shocked, right, if that was also like just released. But then I guess that gets into a weird scenario where we know that Microsoft is using this like smart delivery. Yeah. So I mean, I guess maybe not. Maybe, like, because if they are just putting out, like, a Spider-Man on a PS5 that they're going to sell again, that might get into really murky territory of, like, okay, so are you guys not doing any kind of cross-place or cross-buy stuff, or, what's going on with that? Like, we still don't know the answer to that. I can only assume that it will be the same. I would hope so. But yeah, so, like, what you were getting at is this is... likely going to be some kind of like a Lost Legacy style of expansion, Infamous First Light, so like a smaller scaled down thing, but probably reusing the city, just with like a new story and Miles Morales, so like more or different types of abilities.
And it's probably going to be like holiday themed, a lot of snow around. Do you expect this to be like $40 maybe at launch?
I would originally I was thinking like I would pay $20 to $30 for this, but the more I thought about it, and I think like Lost Legacy was $40. So it makes sense that this would be $40 or $30 to $40 at least.
Yeah.
Which, hey, I mean, I'm fine with. If it's like 8 to 10 hours, great.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for too.
Yep.
And Insomniac, somewhere they got to be working on the full on sequel. So I love this
Sure.
kind of thing to tide us over. And it does kind of feel like more of an extra like expansion to the original first
Yeah.
game. And did you play the DLC of
I
Spider-Man?
didn't. I did not. I have it.
Okay,
I just never. I don't know. It's hard for me to get back to games like that when they
sure.
have like small DLC bits. One thing I will say that like regardless of price on this, right? This has a pretty high likelihood of being the best or one of the best launch games,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I think we talked about this a few months ago. The launch lineups are typically just not good.
Yeah,
There might be like a couple, like one or two, where it's like, okay, yeah, this is fine. But usually it's like it's not great stuff. Um, generally. So like I feel like, considering how good Spider-Man was, like I have pretty full faith in this being really good. Which is exciting. It's exciting to like be able to look forward to something that you can pretty confidently say like, yeah, this is going to be great. Like this will be a great like first title to have.
yeah. I think that's and like I mean, Insomniac's definitely no stranger to like launch titles and stuff, even like with the Resistance and
Mm.
stuff like that. So I think they're definitely going to be able to get the. I would. I'm not a betting man, but I would put money. This is absolutely
They
a launch game.
I feel like so one thing that we'll see in the next few months with Microsoft as well is I imagine we'll start seeing is like their acquisitions paying off.
Sure.
Right. And I feel like this showcase was a really good example of like this is why Sony bought Insomniac.
Yeah.
Because
Sure.
good lord. like
Yeah.
they had some of the best looking stuff at this showcase by far.
Yeah, and we'll get to another Insomniac game here in a minute, but back
Mm-hmm.
to more first party.
Yeah.
We have I'm trying to remember the name, Kazunori Yamauchi. Is that correct? He was the
Sure.
Polyphony Digital director. I think that's his name. Showed off Gran Turismo 7, so they actually
Mm-hmm.
finally put number 7 on it. It's not Sport 2 or anything like that. Um, man, you could have told me that game was running on PlayStation 4 and I'd believe you. Am I fair to say that?
Um sure, but also like I think one thing that was evident in this showcase and they warned us. They were like, "Hey, this is going to be streaming at 1080
That's true.
and 30 like just due to the situation of the world, this is what we got."
Yeah.
And they were pretty good about quickly having 4K versions of all the or most of the trailers up almost immediately or like not that long after.
Right.
But I think the thing with a lot of people talk about like diminishing returns, and I actually feel like there's a lot of games that we saw today that like they were like laughing at that term. They were like, no, this is very clearly a step up. I think the game after this was like a very clear demonstration of like, no, this could not be on PS4.
Yeah.
I think the thing for at least for me, and I think a lot of this is just maybe due to my own inexperience with this kind of game, like with GT 7 or even the Forza games now. And I honestly, even the NBA 2K21 game we saw later on, they just look so good, and they've looked so good for a long time that it's getting really hard to tell, at least with like certain sports games and racing games. Like it's getting hard to notice the difference on those specifically. It looks really nice, and
Yeah.
that's basically all I've got for that.
Yeah, I don't have too much else. Like they showed a little bit of like the social stuff, I think. Then they followed up with like maybe 3-4 minutes of just straight driving,
Just straight gameplay, which is cool.
Straight gameplay. I feel like, and I mean, Gran Turismo has always been this, but I was like really kind of impressed by like the audio and stuff like that of like the car and the engine and the shifting gears and stuff. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I did buy I almost said Grand Theft Auto, Gran Turismo 5, which was like a huge selling game on PS3. But yeah, I'm never too much into those kind of sim racing games. I can certainly appreciate them, but
GT5 was the last one I bought. And yeah, like I've tried, but I usually like fall off it at some point.
Yeah.
It's something though I will say like if this is, I don't think it will be, right? If this was out at launch, I could see me just picking it up to have it as like a showpiece kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Of like, hey, look at this racing game. Like, oh my god.
Mm-hmm.
But this is like this was like the beginning of this showcase where most of these games just didn't have like dates.
Yeah, that's true.
Or if they did, it was like 2021, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Which was interesting. I wonder if, I think there's probably a lot of factors. I think for the Sony first party specifically, they've gotten a little better about just like not announcing a date until they know.
Mm-hmm.
But I also wonder, I think for especially a lot of these games, I wonder how much like COVID-19 is going to impact them. Sure. I remember Phil Spencer had like a really good interview, I think a month or two ago, where he was talking about the launch, and he was like, yeah, no, like we're fine. Like launch is going to be great. And then he was like, it's the games next year that's going to be an issue. Because he was talking about, you know, like these are studios, they can't have people come in to do motion capture. They can't have people to come in to do voiceover. They can't have people, like there are certain things they have to do in person that they just can't do. And so a lot of stuff is like being put on hold. And I think, you know, for a lot of these indie games, that's maybe less of an issue. But I wonder, especially for some of the Sony games, right? Like, is Horizon, not to get too ahead of ourselves, right? Like, is Horizon, Resident Evil 8, what's some other ones? Like, I mean, the Gran Turismo, are these going to be negative? Like, are these going to be pushed back a lot farther than originally planned because of just the state of things?
Yeah.
And maybe that's why. Maybe that's why they, like, a lot of the stuff just didn't even have anything. Not even a year. Which was kind of surprising.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I do think the Lombax motion capture is probably complete, maybe for this next game.
Oh, yeah.
The best game shown, of course, maybe a little biased on my part.
One of the best. Easily one of the best.
Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Oh man, I put my hands up in the air like when they showed off that little bug at the very beginning. I was like, this is it. This is it.
There's a lot of games today that were just, or from Thursday, that were just like you almost immediately knew.
Yeah. And we'll get to one of those maybe an unexpected one that I really picked out that I was like, that looks familiar, just kind of the style. But man, those ears on Ratchet, they're so furry. The ears, they look so good.
You know what's wild? I saw someone post a comparison between the PS4 Ratchet and this one, and I was like, no way. It was like, no way did the PS4 version look like that.
Yeah.
Because you see this one, and you're like, yeah, man, this looks incredible. The PS4 version looked like a lot like this too, but then when you go back and look, it's a big difference. Mm-hmm. It's wild. Yeah. Like, it's unbelievable. But this game is...
the ray tracing, the
trailer,
SSD.
Like, they showed like a lot of gameplay from this for one, and it looks. So this is one that no year attached to it. Yeah. I think there were rumors that this may have been a launch game. That seems unclear. I almost feel like it's not. Like, I feel like if it was, like, they would have put holiday 2020 next to it.
Sure.
So maybe early next year kind of feels like a safer bet. Because it looked, at least from what they showed, I feel like it looked pretty far along. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, I mean, this is, like, we've been hearing a lot about the SSD and how they'll be able to, like, stream in content a lot faster, no loading times, like, it's a big thing. This is probably one of the only games, I think, so far that has really, like, shown it, due to a key, like, one of the key gameplay concepts is this kind of warping through different, like, rifts in the dimension, and so going to different worlds instantly.
Yeah.
Or near instantly, I guess. There's kind of like a weird limbo rift that you go through, but having that happen in big set piece moments, but then actually, like, in the game itself, you're almost doing, like, portal-like moves, where you're, like, kind of teleporting to, like, if there's enemies off in the distance, you can kind of throw a rift bomb, we'll say, and, like, pull yourself towards it. I don't know about you. I actually like one of my favorite parts about the effect is that you weren't just teleporting there; you were like pulling it towards you.
Right. Right.
Which I thought looked really cool. That was a super like. I don't know if it's my favorite game that was shown, but it's probably one of the most. I think it's definitely hands down the most impressive thing that was shown.
Yeah, the part that I love the most is like where they did this,
other than Horizon, but yeah,
they did the other like after the main trailer they showed that gameplay part, and it's like at the very end where he's like running around like a little like bush garden thing with like a bunch of grass, and he like shoots one of the weapons, and it's like all these like grass clippings like fly up in the air. And just all the other things going on. It looked beautiful. I am super excited for this. Yeah. This exceeded my expectations, and for me to get into a little bit of Ratchet analysis here. So a couple of the enemies they showed in the gameplay demo are actually like the enemies from like the original Ratchet and Clank. So, right. Like, there's these, like, sand sharks. There's these, like, mechanical dog kind of enemies. Like, those are, like, the exact... And they might have been in the remake in PS4. I can't remember that. But, like, they're from, like, the original Ratchet and Clank. They also show right before the other female Lombax shows up. Which I think the friend I was watching it with named her Latchet. Which I think that's... I'm going with that. So, when Latchet shows up... they show like this hologram of Dr. Nefarious in the background, so I think that kind of shows that like he's like the main bad guy.
Well, I thought I might be wrong. I thought that there was like a line of dialogue that mentioned Nefarious.
Maybe it was. I guess maybe I missed that. Yeah, you might be right. I just remember that I just saw the hologram and I was just like, oh, that's probably who's behind it, all that stuff. And correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's a new. Is that a new logo for Ratchet and Clank? You know what I mean? Like, I felt like that logo looked little... That logo, perhaps, like where it says Ratchet and Clank, I felt like it looked a little bit different. So hopefully that's like this kind of new era. And I don't know if it's gonna... Because, I mean, I highly doubt we're getting a sequel to the movie that came out. And so, like, I don't know if this game is gonna try and be that sequel.
This game looks better than the movie.
That's true. Yeah. I actually like the movie quite a bit. We could, talk about that.
Yeah, no, I think the movie's fine.
Yeah.
The movie's fine.
But, yeah. But yeah, again, just super excited for that. Next game I have as kind of forgettable. So, and I have some other thoughts on this, but Project Athia, Square Enix, Luminous Production. So
Square Enix shows up on the screen.
Yeah.
And we like, there's like little snippets like a girl walking through some ruins, right? And for a good half of this trailer, I was like, here it is, Final Fantasy 16, let's do it. Not the case.
Yeah.
So Project Athia, this is from Luminous Productions. So without being like too specific, because I only I don't know like everything about this, but this is essentially the Final Fantasy 15 team. We knew that. So Tabata, who was the director of 15, we've known that they've been working on a game for a while, for a few years now. Tabata left Square Enix, I think, last year. So the director of this, I don't remember his name. I believe is the one who directed the episode Ignis DLC for 15. I also saw someone, I don't remember who, or I don't remember their name. Oh, I'm sorry. Imran Khan. Imran Khan.
Yeah.
He used to be at Game Informer. He made a post on Resetera. They have a thread about Project Athia, and they were talking, and a lot of it's Square Enix, so they're making a lot of jokes about this game just never coming out or being like 7,000 years away. But he made a comment that this game is perhaps closer than we might think, which to me makes sense. Just based on the fact that Final Fantasy 15 came out a while ago, and we know that they've been working on this game, since that game was finished. So they've had some time. It's a little worrying. Anytime you see project in front of something is a little worrying, especially if it's Square Enix that's attached to it. So I can't blame anyone for being like, all right, sure. But from what we saw, like, it looks a lot like 15 for obvious reasons, right? It's the same engine, same developers. I like one thing that was really cool about this showcase and that I like in this game is that I think someone mentioned that it took like 45 minutes to see the first like white male main character of a game. Like we had Miles Morales, we had Cars in GT7, we had Lombax's. Project Athea is it appears to be just a black female, right? Like, not unsure, at least from what we've seen of like her heritage, right, or like who she is. But then we have a cat, and then we have then we have Sackboy, and then we have dinosaurs. It's a whole thing, right? And so like that's really cool. Like not just Sony is known for like diverse types of games, but it was cool to see like a actually truly diverse selection of just characters that you're playing as.
Sure.
So also there was a part in this trailer where she's in a forest and there's like a giant eyeball that like rises up, and I was like convinced that was a Marlboro from Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, look at that.
Yeah.
No, it was not.
But yeah, we do also get the thing at the very end that's like designed exclusively for PlayStation 5, so sounds like that's an exclusive.
Well, it's coming to PC too.
Is it? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure.
Which
I
makes
seen too much
which makes that part like a little weird.
Okay.
But sure.
Yeah. But yeah,
console exclusive.
I just felt like that was like when I look at the whole list of games, like I feel like I can pick out like what game was what by the list, but then when I see this game, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot they showed that. It just didn't really stick out to me at all.
That's fine. We saw very little, right?
Sure. Yeah. I
like the enemy designs we saw. I think the wolves and the dragon look really cool. But even from the short like snippets of gameplay, like it's hard to really tell what to expect from this. Like, is it open world? Is it going to be linear? Who knows?
Yeah.
Hopefully it's something that like, hopefully it is closer than we think. Hopefully it's like end of next year or something, and we see more soon. One thing, if I can like very quickly go on a little bit of a tangent, this is pretty indicative of a lot of games we saw today. I think Spider-Man was like actually a pretty good example of this as well. We talked a few months ago about, or it may have been last year, we had a conversation a while ago, Colin, about Sony press conferences or state of plays where like they got into this habit of just showing trailers, and in their words, we're gonna let the game speak for themselves, which is awesome, and like it paid off really well for them, and people loved it. Got a little tired after like 3 or 4 times, but I think the thing that's like we're kind of wrapping back around now is the thing that I don't like about this is it typically means that there's a lot of cases where you come out of that and you're like, okay, so this Miles Morales thing, what is it? Is it DLC? Is it an expansion? Is it Spider-Man 2? Like, what's going on? Mm-hmm. And then it takes like a full day to get like a clear answer.
Depending on the exec you talk to.
Right.
I mean, yeah.
And there are other examples of this in this same show, right? Mm-hmm. I think another great one that we'll get to is Demon Souls. It's like, can you, like, is From Software involved in this at all? Are they consulting on this, like, anything? I think it's like, it kind of sucks to, like, have all of this come out, which is awesome, right? And then be left with, like, very simple questions of, like, okay, so, like, what's going on here?
Yeah,
like,
sure.
I think the same with Project Athea is like, give us a little more.
Yeah.
Or at least like, I think there's some games did really well in this show. I really like the trailer and have like the director or 2 of the people from the studio say like a couple sentences about the game. Be like, we're really excited. This is gonna be this. Like, this is the kind of game it is. We're see you more in a few months, or talk to you more in a few months, or something. I don't think it would have been that hard for the Miles Morales thing to have a very, very quick line from one of the people at Insomniac to be like, we're really excited to have this standalone expansion.
Yeah.
available later this year. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. Because they had that for like Ratchet and Clank. They had Marcus Smith out there from Insomniac talking a little bit about it. So, but yeah, next up we got our first of 2 Annapurna games.
Yeah.
We got Stray, and so this game, I can't tell if like that was like when they showed the cat climbing on things, like if that's actual gameplay, like you can just jump on all that stuff, or if that was just the render of concept, maybe.
I think it's the game.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought too.
I think so. This is one I would take me a while to dig at, and I think I saw the developers talking about this later. This is like one of those games that like I've seen before. I've seen like they've had like short little like GIFs on Twitter or whatever, like the cat walking down an alleyway, and you're like, what is that game? And then it just vanishes. This is one of a few in this showcase that I'm like, this looks familiar. It's kind of unclear like what this game is, like the actual game part of it. But I think like I'm guessing it's an adventure game of some sort, like maybe not point and click, but something of that sort.
Yeah.
And so I do think like that could be the game. Like it could just be a thing where you get close enough to a ledge and the cat just jumps. And so that's why it looks as smooth as it does. But
yeah,
either way, I'm super into it.
Yeah, I kind of like that like cyberpunk look. You had like the robots with that like have the different screens that have the different emotions that pop up kind of thing on it. It was announced 2021. Maybe there's some more information out there on it. There wasn't really a ton.
I don't think there was that much more.
Yeah.
I remember looking, but it looks really cool. I'm excited about it.
Yeah. Next up, we did have now Herman Holst, the new president of Sony Worldwide Studios, on the screen talking about some stuff. And we had the returnal of Housemarque. Finally, good to see them somewhat abandon that Battle Royale game, Storm Divers, they had that seemed to was going to maybe kill that studio. You never know. But it seemed like they finally back with PlayStation, and this is a game called Returnal. Had very of course Edge of Tomorrow, of course, what everybody said, but also felt very like Farpoint, like that PSVR game. But this is a gal, it's like a middle-aged gal that she dies and she's like reliving the same day over and over and over again. I guess you just have to progress a little bit farther. Something different from Housemarque. I was expecting more of like a top-down shooter. I was like, okay, it's gonna be like top-down, more arcadey. But this does seem to be more kind of story-driven now.
But also at the same time, like I feel like there was a lot of elements that we know of Housemarque in this game.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
If you look at the combat, just from not just like the visuals, but you know they're known for pretty arcadey style of games, and like I feel like this had a lot of that DNA in it. When it started showing the game itself, when we started seeing like the third-person shooter combat.
Yeah, and you saw like the different color of projectiles coming in. You know, that's something like
there's like a lot
like an Ikaruga Outland, which they made that game Outland that had like the different colors you had to switch between. But yeah, I was intrigued by that one. I'm kind of just curious. I don't know necessarily how to phrase it, but like how big the budget is on this game. Like, is it something kind of smaller base, or is this like?
Well, I think if you think about, again, weird. Like, there's a lot of like trends in the showcase. Another one being like time loops.
Yeah.
So if you think about that concept, though, that concept like lends itself to maybe a smaller budget but more procedural content. So like. It's a game you could play a lot and for a long time, but it's maybe smaller in scope.
Yeah.
I think it looks great. I think it looks fantastic. I hate the name.
Yeah,
but
it's got that revengeance, returnal, all that kind of stuff going on. I don't. Let's just say I don't hate it, but I'm kind of put off by it. I guess let's say.
Yeah, I don't think it's a good name. And now next up, Collin, is one of my favorite just like pleasant surprises of the show.
Yeah, I'd agree.
And like I'm a little shocked at how long. Like, I'm shocked that I didn't realize what it was until the reveal. So Sumo Digital, and I was like, oh, cool. Like, I like them.
Yeah.
There's like a close up of like what looks like a weird looking tiger. And I was like, all right, here. I don't know what this is.
Yeah.
And it's a Sackboy, a big adventure.
Yeah, I pointed it out because I was like, what is this? Like, is this like Tony the Tiger thing? Or, I was like, what is this? And then when they showed the side clip of like when Sackboy in the costume raises up, I saw the zipper kind of around his chest, and I was like, oh, is that Sackboy? And then it was. Curtis, so why is it taking so long to actually have a dedicated Sackboy game?
I was thinking earlier today, like. A lot of time, like, you know, through Little Big Planet 1, 2, and 3, I think a lot of people, myself included, were like, are we ever going to get, like, a 3D platformer? Like, is that ever going to happen?
Yeah.
And it never did. And honestly, after 3, I know 3's reception was maybe, like, less than what they wanted it to be. Like, I really liked it, but I didn't expect Little Big Planet to come back, I guess.
Yeah.
You know,
I didn't either.
Meaning Molecule moved on to Dreams. I just kind of assumed that Sackboy was going to be left to just be in the history books, as it were. So this was a really cool surprise. 2, it's cool to see the 3D platformer, right? With Sackboy, like this easily could have been Knack 3, but here we are. I think it looks great. I don't expect there to be a creation component. It does look like there is at least, like, we know there is 4-player co-op because we saw in the trailer. It looks like you can at least customize your Sackboy, which is great.
Yeah, I assume you probably put costumes and stuff on him and whatnot.
I do wonder. So, like, in Little Big Planet, there were some puzzles where you would have to use, like, some of the creation stuff to progress. Like, you would take up a sticker and place it on something. So I do wonder, like, I wonder if there will be any kind of element of that in the game. Maybe not a full-on creation mode, but I do think Sackboy, like, inherently there's like a craft element to that franchise that if you're going to make a 3D platformer, even if there's no creation mode at all, which I don't expect there to be, I think you would almost be missing a cool opportunity to have some interesting mechanics that involved, like, Sackboy creating things or using tools to make stuff.
Yeah, the first thing that came to mind was like, oh, I wonder if those characters from Little Big Planet 3, like the dog or the hawk looking thing, I wonder if they'll show up. Kind of think about maybe like some side things. You know, kind of just, you know, sharing the obvious here, but I mean, a lot of people share the same thought, like very Mario 3D World kind of vibes. So I quite enjoyed that. I never really was a Little Big Planet person, but I mean, if they really can like nail the actual platforming, I guess, you know, everybody talks about the floatiness of LBP. I'm certainly interested in this. I think this looks really good. I don't think there was a date or anything on this one. But
again, like, kind of surprising because they showed a lot of it. Yeah. Or like what seemed to be a lot, right? But
But yeah, I think it's cool. They're just calling it Sackboy. I think that name's a little weird. I think
it says it all. Yeah. I think it's like, hey, this is a spinoff. Do not expect create mode to be in this.
Sure.
That's the way I'm reading it.
Yeah.
So moving on, the next game was Destruction All Stars. It's from is it just Lucid or is it like Lucid Entertainment or something?
From what I see online, it just is Lucid.
Okay. So this is like it's a car combat like derby game. There seemed to be, I don't know if it was just part of the trailer, but it looked like there were parts where you could get out of your car and run around.
Yeah, so this was a game I was watching with a friend, and I basically just said during the trailer, I was like, I'm interested, but I don't really know what's going on. So like, if your car gets destroyed, then do you run out of your car and you like try to survive for a little bit, and then you try to get into a new car? I was just kind of confused about what exactly was going on. Of course, we have to talk about the fact that that very first shot of the trailer, I thought it was a Wipeout game. Like they show like the neon lights and everything, and then they start showing the characters, and you're like, oh, this is not a Wipeout game. But yeah, I just saw like that kind of futuristic tone, like the arena and stuff, and I thought it was like a Wipeout game. I got really excited.
Oh, if only.
Yeah.
If only.
Yeah.
So next up is, I think, one of my personal highlights, if not my favorite thing of the show. Next, Demon Souls, which is like a different tier, is I think Kena, Bridge of Spirits.
Mm-hmm.
This is from Ember Lab. It's their first game. They introduced themselves as an animation studio. They've done like commercials for Coca-Cola, some other companies. I think more recently, and the thing that we would know them for is a few years ago they did a Majora's Mask like animation, like CG animated video that like went viral, I think a couple years ago, just because it was like super, super well done.
Mm-hmm.
So Kena, so then they showed the trailer for this game, and it's like immediately apparent that, oh yeah, this is an animation studio first and foremost. Like, it is. I don't know how big this studio is, but I think it stands with some of the other best looking games on this showcase. Easy.
We saw those little minion
honestly,
guys too.
Obviously, like Horizon is probably one of the best looking games like out there. Ratchet and Clank looked incredible, but like I put that next to Kena, and I'm just like, man, I don't know. Like I like this game so much, just the way it looks. And what's also cool is like there's a lot of just elements of different games. Like there's some Zelda in it, there's some Pikmin in it.
I like the platforming.
There's some like cameo vibes I was getting.
I've heard that brought up.
It reminded me a little bit of, even though it's like a different animation style entirely, I was getting a lot of like Kubo and the Two Strings from Laika, which is a fantastic movie, but like it was just like a lot of like really good vibes from this trailer. What's also cool is it is another holiday 2020 game. It's on PS5, PS4, and PC.
Oh, okay.
Like, this is likely a launch game or very close to it. I think I don't know, like, it looked like it's just a really cool adventure, like, action-adventure game. And the shot of, like, the town in that trailer looks incredible.
Yeah, it is that kind of blending your gameplay with your actual game, your cutscenes, and so, like, we talk about like Ni no Kuni, like watching that game in motion. I almost just want to see more of an extended, like at least like 5 full minutes of like gameplay of just watching this game in motion.
There's a lot of games that were shown here where I was like, man, I really wish they would follow up in the next couple of days with like 5 to 10 minutes of just gameplay. I would love to just like watch this.
Yeah, and I was thinking about this a lot. That it's like, if this was their E3 press conference, like we could have been like, oh, here's this other extended behind closed doors demo thing, but we don't have that. So that's kind of disappointing. But hopefully in the future we do see more of it for sure. One of my sleeper hits up next. Goodbye, go ahead.
I'm so happy to hear this.
Oh, yeah. Goodbye, Volcano High. It was certainly weird, but you give me a narrative-driven game.
Adventure game.
Yeah, adventure game kind of thing like that, with dialogue, great characters, interesting setting, plot, premise, all that stuff. I'm there, so
yep.
I don't know why this gave me this like how to fool boyfriend thing that I only played like 10 minutes of, but it's like, oh, so instead of birds, it's like dinosaurs now. I love the art style. I think it's great.
Yeah, So I like to illustrate some of my thoughts going through this, right? Like when we started seeing the characters, I don't know why, like it didn't immediately jump to me that these were dinosaurs. But it's a certain kind of art style for sure, and I pretty immediately was like, oh, people are not gonna like this.
Yeah.
I think it's a kind of art style that I think typically people draw a line towards like furries with.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And which is a bummer because like I think this looks really cool. It was giving me heavy Life is Strange vibes, for sure. A Dinosaur High School, like you got me there. I think like you were saying, there's an interesting element of kind of Night in the Woods as well, right? Where there's like this impending doom. Way like there's like typical, like high school life and drama, and just like making your way through the world and life as it is, right? But then also like, in this case, because it's dinosaurs, there are asteroids hurtling towards Earth and going to destroy everything. So what will you do with that time?
Oxenfree was another game I thought about during that. Like even like there's the part early in the game in Oxenfree where they're all around like the campfire, and there's also this part as well. Like kind of got those kind of vibes as well. And I honestly would have like, it was almost like so close. I was like, is this what is it? Night something Studios? I can't remember what it's called, but they're a studio for Oxenfree and After Party. But yeah, I just kind of got those vibes too. And yeah, I think
it's a co-op who did.
Yeah.
What was that game? There was a VR game they did. And I'm blanking on its name. I think it was out at like launch for VR. It was a puzzle game. I don't remember the name. It started with a G, but I don't. The writer's been out there on Twitter talking about this, and they mentioned that it was a very queer heavy, like a queer centric story or something. Which I'm like, cool, great, more diversity. Let's keep it going.
Yeah.
So next up is Oddworld. I was about to say a bit of a weird one, but I felt like that was maybe too close, so I said it anyways. Oddworld Soulstorm. So this is a game we've seen. We saw it last year at E3. They showed, I think, the same trailer.
Yeah, I saw somebody talking about that there were numerous shots of the both trailers.
I believe, I don't know, I could be wrong. I think I heard after the fact that this is a launch game. Or set to be, like, it's another holiday 2020 game. A lot of those, like, were not mentioned in the show, but, like, after the fact were confirmed to be holiday 2020. I think Kenna, one of those as well. Have you ever, like, I've played a Oddworld game for a little bit. Did you ever get into this series at all?
I want to say at one point, Stranger's Wrath was on Vita for free for PlayStation Plus, and I think I played it for like 20 minutes, and that's the only Oddworld game I've ever played.
I've played a lot of Stranger's Wrath, and I love that game. But it's a very different kind of game,
right? Than kind of this one is, and
than
Abe's
what
Odyssey.
These like mainline Oddworlds are. So like I played Abe's Odyssey, I think on PS Plus years and years ago. It reminds me of Lemmings. It's like in the same vein. So I don't know, like, I guess I might be willing to give this a shot, but it's not, I didn't really, like, latch onto it when I played some of the old games way back when, but if you make another game like Stranger's Wrath, I'm there. Like, I'm ready to go.
Yeah. We're getting into one of the other big heavy hitters now. We don't have our lovely gal from E3 last year anymore. But we do get the legendary Shinji Mikami on screen.
Just pops up there.
Yeah, there's no like end screen transition, something like that. It's just boom, there he is.
He's just there.
And then there to talk about Ghostwire Tokyo. What were your thoughts when they showed that it's a first person perspective?
I was really surprised.
Yeah, same.
I think like it's one of the few times ever that I like spoke out loud or like made a audible noise. Because I was just like, all right, okay.
Yeah, I did not expect that at all.
Genuine shock at that. It looks crazy. It looks wild.
You're doing like hand motions and like almost like this kind of sign language kind of thing to like beat up enemies.
I think this is a really perfect example of a game that was like, I want to see uncut gameplay of this. Because the majority of the trailer was just like constant cuts of action. And so you're just constantly seeing this in first person, this guy's hands doing crazy stuff. Like a mixture of like, I guess like kung fu, but magic.
Yeah,
If that
I'd
makes
say
sense.
that.
Like,
Yeah.
it looks wild. But perhaps the thing that's more surprising, at least to me, and something we did not learn until after the fact, is that this is a timed exclusive to PlayStation 5, set for 2021. But this was a game that was revealed last year at Bethesda's press conference. We didn't hear anything about it. And it seems like the reason why we didn't is perhaps because they were reworking it for next gen, and also Sony was making some deals.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is one of them. The other Bethesda game, a little bit later on, is a similar case.
Yeah.
So that was pretty surprising too. But yeah, this game just looks crazy. I'm stoked for it. I want to see a lot more though.
Yeah, and we were discussing maybe recording this, because we're recording this 2 days after the reveal, and I think we were talking about, like, waiting just because extra information will come out there. Like, how do you not talk about that? Like, I was surprised they didn't say at the very end of the trailer console exclusive PlayStation 5.
Yeah.
Like, there's just nothing about it until like press releases come afterwards. So I'm glad we kind of waited to hear more about some of this information. But yeah, it says coming 2021. So I don't know if that's, maybe first half, second half,
Yeah.
or whatnot, but I was pleasantly surprised for sure.
Evil Within 2 was a bit of like a while ago at this point, right? Like, is it 2018, 2017?
2017. Yeah.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
I could see maybe some dev time being added on, like if they switched to PlayStation 5. I couldn't remember if this and Deathloop were like, if they mentioned consoles when they revealed it last year. I don't remember, like, I'd have to go back and watch, because I couldn't remember if they had like said, yeah, it's coming to PS4 and Xbox One, or if they just like didn't, which maybe that's the case. I don't remember.
Yeah, I honestly don't remember either. It's crazy to think that was already a year ago. Yeah. We saw those games. It feels like, it was only like 6 months ago, right? Like, no, it's been a full year.
Yeah. So next up this is the Super Brothers game, right?
Yeah, Jet.
Okay. So Jet: The Far Shore, another holiday 2020 game. One that I don't like. I think looks really cool, and I will likely play. Unless we see more gameplay, and I'm like, I'm not into it. But they didn't show much, and it was very like a mysterious kind of vibe I was getting. I'm like, I don't know what I'm actually looking at.
Yeah.
There's like a rocket like blasting off. Yeah. There seem to be indications of like multiple generations passing. Mm-hmm.
There's like a big mothership that's like year 1, 2, 3, and then it keeps counting up. So I don't know if this is supposed to be like, I don't know, the vibe I got to it was like, aliens came to Earth millions of years ago kind of thing. I have no idea. But yeah, because like it also started off with like these kind of like, I don't know, like 1700s or 1500s people like standing in a field, like you coming out of this tent. And they do, I think, what they end up showing then gameplay of like kind of a little bit of like lowered isometric view where you're on a ship kind of going through like seeing ruins and fossils and stuff like that, and probably just exploration.
So I'll read really briefly from the PlayStation blog post on Jet: The Far Shore. Mm-hmm. Just like a couple, like just little bits and pieces here. So Jet: The Far Shore begins with May embarking on an interstellar trip, lapsing into torpor aboard the Mother Structure spaceship. 1,000 years then pass before the first scout unit arises, May among them. Together they will deploy to a mythic ocean planet on the far shore of a sea of stars to seek out a prospective sanctuary for a people on the verge of extinction. And we saw a bit of that in the trailer, like them like in a ship crossing over oceans, like just exploring like vast unknown planets and things like that, which looks pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't honestly have too much other to say about that. Sure. I never did play
Sword and
Super Brothers. Sword and Sorcery.
I did not either.
Yeah, I know. I've heard good things about it though. But so I do believe there is a game you left off of this list.
Okay.
And it is your game that maybe had the worst showing. This is when we got the Godfall trailer, I do believe.
Oh my god, I did. How did I leave that off?
Because I got it while I'm
That is
listening,
my
watching
game.
a little. I watched it in the background a little bit. I've got the video in the background, and I take back what I said about Project Athea. I think
It's a weird trailer.
I think Godfall might be the most forgettable game.
I still believe in it. I'm still excited for Godfall.
Yeah.
Beyond reason.
There's just so like the camera is cutting, like it's probably like a 2.5 minute trailer, and the camera is cutting like every half second.
Mm-hmm.
I would have preferred just 2.5 minute clip of gameplay than this kind of like, whoa, this is all really cool, dun, 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 and then I don't know, it just was kind of
the music choice for me was like the off-putting thing for it. It didn't feel like it really fit. Or I don't know, maybe they were trying to say like this is the kind of game we're going for, and I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
I was excited to see it. Like we had seen like short glimpses of it already.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still in for it. Like I haven't seen anything yet that's made me go like I'm out.
Sure. Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, and I don't know, like honestly, I guess we'll talk. Maybe we'll talk about this more at the end of this, but. If you think about some of the games that are on this list that are listed holiday 2020, if those hold, and there's a lot of indie stuff, but that indie stuff looks really solid. But if those hold, and then Assassin's Creed holds, like, and you have Spider-Man, suddenly it's like, yeah, this is like a really solid launch lineup.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things with Godfall that I mentioned when I first was like, I really want to believe in this game is that you come at it with the expectation that there's not going to be that much at launch. There's going to be very little, and this is a perfectly suited game for that because it being loot driven, it's something that is like very specific to playing it a lot and replaying over and over again. So maybe it happens that this game gets quickly overshadowed by like much better stuff.
Yeah.
At launch, but. We'll see.
And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but from what it sounds like to me, Godfall is exclusive to PlayStation 5 at launch, at least. Like, it sounds like it's coming to at least PC, but then maybe Xbox later. I don't think it's like permanent exclusive. Is it Godfall on PS5?
I don't know if that's been clear yet.
Okay. I always just got the sense that it was like launching first on PS5 and PC and then coming to Xbox.
Thanks, its console debut on PS5 launches on PC this holiday season.
Okay, because it doesn't say on the trailer, it just says available holiday. So, okay, maybe
I mean, that kind of wording historically has always been, it'll come to the other consoles later.
Yeah, gotcha.
So
exclusive.
It looks really nice.
Yeah, I agree. They got some of that ray tracing off the armor and all that stuff. So
doing it.
Curtis, did you ever play Hyper Light Drifter?
I did. That's a good video game.
I never did play it, but we have seen Solar Ash.
Yeah.
Now, and apparently I hadn't heard of this game, but
we
apparently
had seen it before.
Okay.
And it was a Solar Ash something. There was a third word. It seems like they may have shortened the title.
Okay.
It's another 2021 game. It's Hyper Light Drifter was like a kind of top-down 2D action game. This is 3D. The main character definitely like has some pretty heavy Hyper Light Drifter vibes to it.
Yeah, I almost thought it was like a sequel or something.
Yeah,
I saw the character.
I don't know that there's any connection, but the art style definitely is pretty similar, or there's some pretty strong like vibes going there. I think it looks super cool.
Yeah,
that's really all I got though.
Yeah, so. I mean it's another Annapurna game. We saw like literally the only I guess gameplay we saw is like the character like running forward and then the camera zooming around, and that was kind of all we got. But yeah, I don't really have too much else to say about that one either. That was the other Annapurna game. So next up,
and just like glancing through the blog post, there's not a whole lot of other details they added. It just talked about kind of personal like history with developing the game and stuff. So
next up, not to toot my own horn, but it was a game that I predicted in the pregame show. IO Interactive showed up with Hitman 3. Yeah, I haven't played the most recent Hitman. I think I maybe played a little bit of 1, actually,
Mm-hmm.
the first one, but I didn't play any Hitman 2. I know this is a really big kind of franchise, and I would almost kind of say like a rebound of a franchise, because apparently like Hitman Absolution is like not very good, and that was the game they made before all these. Like apparently the last couple Hitmans like
Yeah.
weren't very good, but then when the new series of just Hitman came out, it became really big. But yeah, I think this looks gorgeous. They
Mm-hmm.
show the Burj Khalifa, if I'm saying that name correctly, in Dubai. It's the big kind of skyscraper that's
Yeah.
there. I love kind of those like big missions where like it's like either a big tower and you gotta like sneak through different things, like a big palace kind of things, which is would be right up my alley. It'll be interesting to see if Hitman 3 does continue that kind of episodic kind of gameplay that they've done in the past. I don't know if they've said anything about that yet.
I don't believe they had. However, I am just to read a little bit from the blog post here. Hitman 3 is the conclusion to the World of Assassination trilogy. And this is something I did not know, which is cool. We're very happy to allow players to carry over locations and progression from Hitman 2 into Hitman 3. So, and basically, they go on to say that the entire trilogy is all playable within Hitman 3, which is great. That's cool.
Yeah.
And the other part is, hey, this is out in January.
Yeah, the tagline of "Death awaits," and I think that's really soon for sure. And I think they did the same thing when they announced Hitman, the first like reboot Hitman. They didn't say announced it at an E3 conference for PlayStation. It was like out that December or something like that. So they've definitely got quick turnarounds on it. So be interesting to see that. I assume it's only going to be PlayStation 5. I mean, some of these...
the blog post says PS4 and PS5.
Oh, PS4 as well. Okay, gotcha. Yep. But yeah, next up, we found out later this is actually a game that is preloaded on the PS5 system. But I thought we got our Astrobot Rescue Mission sequel, which we
I really thought that was Astrobot 2.
Yeah.
And like, so I have boxed up my VR and it's in the closet. And this whole like for a part of this trailer, I was like, oh man, I'm bringing it back out. I will hook that right back up.
Yeah.
For this.
Astro's
this is
Playroom.
not Astro's Playroom. Like you said, it's preloaded onto the PS5. So another launch thing. But that does that also leads to a lot of questions, right? Where like this trailer made it look like it's a full-on platformer.
Yeah.
They mentioned that it's specifically to show off the controller. And so that, and because it's preloaded, like I think definitely puts a little bit of a damper on the announcement, because you're like, well, how much of this is there? Like, because that it makes it sound like there's not gonna be that much. Maybe like a few levels. There's like parts of the trailer that seems to be kind of an overworld that you can explore. But it like watching that trailer, I was excited about doing another like platforming game with Astrobot, and knowing then what we know now, like it makes me feel like, oh, this is gonna be a pretty small little like collection of maybe some mini games, maybe a couple platforming levels, but nothing like dramatic or nothing like major.
Yeah, I would agree. And there's one part at the very end of the trailer that so they have like the little Astro like minion guy, or not necessarily Astro himself, but the other like a little robot guy. There's a scene where he's got like he's holding like an original PlayStation controller, and there's a scene where there's like original fat PS3 art in the background. And the very last scene before the logo, you remember the PlayStation 2 startup with like the orbs flying around and like the big old towers and whatnot? Like there's basically that in the background, which I think is super cool. So definitely, if you haven't noticed some of that stuff, go back and watch it. It's really cool.
Regardless, obviously, like, one, I do think it's cool that they're doing, because PS4 had this, right? They had Playroom. And that was like a weird, cool little thing that you could check out that use the camera, and you can use the controller, you can do some different fun things with it. Yeah. And that's where Astrobot originated from. it does give me hope that like we will get a sequel. That maybe this is like a fun little thing that they're doing for launch, but they are making a sequel.
Yeah, and I guess I just feel like if they do make a full on sequel, I would assume it would be VR compatible but not required.
Maybe I mean, so they haven't talked a lot about VR. They did say that I remember that they said the current VR headset will be compatible. Mm-hmm. But you can only imagine that they're doing that they're going to have a PSVR 2 or something.
I'd agree, yeah.
And so maybe that's something that's in development that would be revealed alongside the next iteration of VR.
Yeah. Yeah. And even just kind of as a side note, and we'll talk about another big game we're both excited for that previously had a VR mode. Mm-hmm. That it's like I was kind of disappointed they didn't talk maybe more about PlayStation VR total, which I know that maybe you could say this isn't really the thing to do about it or whatnot, but hopefully coming up soon we'll maybe get a little bit more details, either be compatibility or does my PS4 controller work with my PlayStation 5, because how is my camera gonna read the light bar on the DualSense if it's not that big bright, you know what I mean? All of that stuff.
Sure.
How's Until Dawn gonna work where, you have to hold still on my PlayStation? Yeah. How's that going to work? Stuff like that. So, but moving on, we have a game that I thought was a pretty intriguing art style. This is Little Devil Inside.
Yep.
And this is another game I wasn't really sure what was going on, perhaps.
I think it looks... Okay, this is another, highlight for me. Mm-hmm. But also, this was the other game where... The whole time I was watching the trailer, I kept thinking, I've seen this before. Or, why does this look familiar? Why does this look familiar? Well, it turns out I had seen it before. It's a Kickstarter game, and it's been in development for a long time. I think, 6 or 7 years. I went back and looked at their Kickstarter page a couple days ago, and if you scroll down far enough, they're like, yeah, we're aiming for, a 2016 release.
Oh, jeez.
Which clearly didn't happen.
Yeah.
But, and the story-wise, yeah, it's kind of there's a lot going on, and it's hard to tell what the story is about. Mm-hmm. But there's some monster hunter in here.
Yeah,
there's
big enemies. I don't know if it's you're gathering, because the very first shot of the trailer is I guess the son maybe, or whoever, the grandson coming home with a giant animal and then delivering it to his father, and then they show shots of the father just doing random stuff around the house.
There was a Cheshire cat kind of thing going on.
Mm-hmm.
At one point in the trailer, yeah, it looks crazy.
And there's a part where the older man is walking down the street, and it's are we also playing as the older man right. At some point?
Well, there's definitely interesting parallels that they draw in the trailer, and there's some funny comedic moments, but
yeah,
it skips back and forth between the two of them. Another thing in the trailer that jumped out to me is there's a part where the guy's fighting some some people in just a region, some grass. There's some hills and stuff, and he's fighting a few different ones, and he does a shield blocks, as he's blocking, he kind of turns around, pivots around the guy, and takes his sword and knocks him out, and kind of turns back around, and just the animation of that really jumped out to me as being really impressive, and just super polished for what it was, right? And I guess maybe that shows considering how long it's been in development.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of games I feel nowadays that we're oh, we haven't seen anything like that. I haven't seen a game that looks like that before. I would say that might be one of them. That I'm I can't really point to that and been yeah, I've seen something that looks just like that before. You know what I mean? It just felt very unique in its kind of art style with the animations and stuff.
So a couple interesting things, right? So they mentioned that Little Devil Inside is about a professor researching mysterious creatures with you. Just reading from their Kickstarter page, Little Devil Inside is a truly engaging 3D action adventure RPG game where you are thrown into a surreal but somewhat familiar setting with humans, creatures, and monsters to interact with, learn, and hunt. This game is not just about killing archdemons and saving the world. You take in the atmosphere and live a realistic life in an unrealistic world. Game that tells stories about people with unusual jobs, such as hunting monsters and what happens in their everyday life doing so. Another interesting element of this that's kind of unclear, right, is it seems like there might be some like timed exclusivity on PS5. But the Kickstarter, obviously, launched with promises of Wii U, PS4, Xbox One, Steam. And it sounds like there's a little bit of like an outcry of like, hey, we backed your game, what's going on?
Right.
So hopefully that gets cleared up a bit. There's also some stuff about there's a part in the trailer where there's some characters that are wearing like tribal mask. And so there was some blowback because people were like, hey, that's weirdly problematic for reasons, right? And like the developer did respond to that, and they were like, yeah, actually, you know what, we didn't even realize it. That's our bad. We're gonna make adjustments and we'll change that, which is cool. But yeah, like I think this looks incredible, but with as long as it's been in development, I'm a little worried that it's just gonna be like 4 years from now, we'll be like, oh, it's finally coming out.
Sure, yeah. Curtis, do you like the Duke Blue Devils?
No.
Okay, then you probably won't really like Zion Williamson of the New Orleans Pelicans.
A fun fact about me, when I was in middle school, I was dead set on going to Maryland to be a Maryland Terrapin.
Nice.
That was my team.
Nice.
Growing up in every March Madness tournament. Those were my people.
Yeah, the Terrapins head coach used to be the coach at Wichita State here in Kansas. So
look at that.
No, plenty of Maryland stuff.
Yeah,
people talking about them. So, we don't have to spend any time on this, except I'm going to. NBA 2K21. I don't know why, but they have the fall 2020 at the end, and I've heard so many people talk like, does that mean the PlayStation 5 is fall?
No, it doesn't.
Stuff? Yeah, no, I'm like, yes, it doesn't. That means this game is probably launching in September on PlayStation 4 in the fall, and then it will launch day and date on PlayStation 5.
I don't understand. I was talking to someone like yesterday, and I was like, yeah, well, you know, it's this year, it's November 6th, 13th, and 20th. Those are the Fridays in November. So it's probably going to be one of those days. And they're like, why do you say that? And I'm like, because it's going to be out before Black Friday. They're going to launch it in November. October is like an outside shot, maybe. But it's going to be November. It's going to be one of those 3 days.
Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to mention that. I was just like kind of annoyed at like
I've heard the same
videos I was watching, and I was like, oh my goodness.
Hey, you know what? If it comes out in September, God bless them.
Yeah, PS5 is going to launch in the fall with only NBA 2K21. That's the only launch game.
It should also be clear, right? Like, technicality, it is the fall until December 21st.
That is true. That is true. Yeah, that is very true. Yeah.
So yeah,
because winter starts really late. But moving on, Bug Snacks. This is the game when that otter gal showed up talking about the Bug Snacks. I was like, man, this looks a lot like Octodad. So I kind of pointed that out to a friend, and then it's like from the creators of Octodad, and then it showed Young Horses. Probably this might be my favorite indie game, weirdly, of
it's one show. Of it's definitely the game that has me like it's definitely one of those games where it's like, dude, Bug Snacks, that's a launch game.
So to like pull a word from Easy Allies, or maybe even like Michael Huber, this game looks jolly. The word jolly comes to mind when I see Bug Snacks.
It just looks fun. It looks like it looks dumb and fun, and like for me, it started out kind of like weird. I'm like, all right, like I can be into this. But as soon as the Young Horses logo showed up, I was like, yes, I'm in. Great, perfect. love it.
And I don't know if it's like, because like they show like this rolling around, they show these other kind of things. I was like, I don't know if it's just like a bunch of mini games. Like even if it's that, I'm in. I don't really need to like really understand what this game is about or really what this game is trying to tell me. I'm like, I'm just kind of, I'm there. And they show like this kind of like big like monster abomination kind of thing running at you at the very end. So
here's a fun one. We talked about
sandwich that's a snake. Curtis?
I know, it's incredible. Have you read up on the PlayStation blog or anything about this game?
I don't think so. I don't think I've read this one.
So you know how like we were talking about how like, oh man, were you surprised that Ghostwire Tokyo's first person?
Yeah.
Okay, so Bugsnax is also first person.
Oh, really? I didn't know.
Yeah.
That.
So on the blog, you play as a journalist. Like again, reading this, I was like, what?
Yeah.
You play as a journalist who receives a mysterious film from the disgraced explorer Elizabeth Megafig. She's invited you to Snacktooth Island to witness her latest and greatest discovery, Bugsnax. Lured by the promise of a great story, you travel to the island to interview Elizabeth and her group of misfit grumpuses. In the pursuit of your big scoop, you get caught up in hunting Bugsnax, feeding grumpuses, and solving the mysteries of the island. They do some like random stuff, right? They talk about, then they go on and talk about like the DualSense controller, which a lot of these articles do. A lot of these indie games really get into like, yeah, we're making like really cool use of the DualSense, and like Kenna talks about when you're using a bow and arrow, how it's using the adaptive triggers and stuff like that. But yeah, just like that short synopsis, I was like, oh, okay.
Feeding grumpuses, I'm in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited for this one.
I'm also really quick before we move on. I like Octodad a lot, and I think part of what makes it great, obviously, is like it's hard to control. But I am excited to play a game from them that, in theory, is not like a nuisance to control. That is like goofy and weird in other ways. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and I mean, in Octodad's, I mean, you would expect maybe this game to be in development for a while, because I don't think that they've made another game in Octodad since 2014.
Yeah, they mentioned that they've been working on this for a while.
Yeah. It's maybe with that, and you know, I'm not trying to generalize and trying to say that it was bad, but like Octodad was like an hour and a half experience maybe for me, maybe 2 hours.
Yeah, it's very short.
So I was like, maybe this game's a little bit longer. That'd be kind of cool. But yeah, next up. So, at what point in the trailer did you know?
Oh, I knew before the trailer.
Oh, did you?
I think this is one where like it's been interesting to see people talk about when they knew. And Colin, I almost feel like we could do a whole like mini podcast about the art of reveals in trailers and the art of like how you get someone to know without telling them anything.
Sure.
Like, I feel like that is a art form that people don't appreciate. But in this case, there's just history. And I think part of it is, for years now, despite no one really ever saying anything to confirm it, like, everyone has just known that a Demon's Souls remake is happening. Some way or other. We've talked about this before. Like, it felt like people just talked about it enough that it became real.
Yeah.
But another part of this is that there's a long history here between Sony and the way that they handled Demon's Souls. Specifically, Shuhei Yoshida infamously saying that Demon's Souls is a trash game when he first played it, and that they passed on it. And so From Software had to self-publish in Japan. Atlus then picked it up and published it in the US, and then Bandai Namco published it in Europe. So there's that, right? And like Shuhei Yoshida has infamously come out later after the fact and been like, he really regrets it. You know, they really dropped the ball on it. He's like a huge fan now, right? Like he's seen the errors of his ways.
He platinum Neo 2, like on Twitter.
The man is a platinum fiend.
Yeah.
And so when he's like talking, he's like, now a game that's very near and dear to my heart. I was like, oh yes.
Yeah.
Because really, like, I hate to say it, but like this whole time, I'm just like, I just want to know if it's real. like I just want to know if like this actually exists or if it doesn't.
Yeah.
And just waiting and waiting and waiting, and like that was the moment where I was like, yep, this is it. So the trailer rolls, and like obviously like there was like that little bit of doubt, that little bit of like, oh, maybe it isn't, maybe it's like Legend of Dragoon, like he worked on that game, I don't know. But the part in the trailer where you see the like the hollowed zombie looking guy floating upside down,
that's
being carried.
Yeah.
It's like a very like it's a very specific shot from the opening of the original game. So this trailer is interesting because it's like there are shots that are the same shot from the intro, the CG intro of Demon Souls, but there's a lot of shots that are different too. Not just like graphically different, but they're just different shots. Different locations, like different things they're showing. There are some bosses that have been redesigned, some a little bit, very slightly, some quite a bit. There's been like an interesting reaction of fans. I was messaging my brother yesterday, and I was like, the more I think about it, the more I realize now that it's real, now that it's like confirmed, it becomes more of a thing of like, wow, this is, I don't envy anyone trying to remake a Souls game, whatever it is, because I mean, in a lot of ways it's similar to Final Fantasy VII, right, where it's like such a revered title, and it's been long enough, and the fans are so dedicated and so passionate, not just about Demon Souls, but about the series, all these From Software games in general. And so to take it and remake it as a different studio, for one, and it's unclear what kind of input, if any, From Software has. I would imagine at least some.
Yeah.
But, like, what happens if this game plays different?
Yeah.
What if the levels are a little bit different? Like, what happens? Like, it probably won't be a 1-to-1 remake. I mean, I guess it might. There's a chance that it might. But there's a good chance that it won't. Like, Demon Souls is a pretty clunky game. I haven't played it in a while, but I have to imagine it's not aged super well.
Yeah.
And so if they fix those things, is it something that people are going to be excited about? Or are they going to be like, no, there was a charm to its clunkiness. Like, where is, like, I wonder now, like, where is this going to go? Because, I mean, at least graphically, it feels like there's a split between people who are like, no, the entire mood's been ruined. But then someone like me who has seen the screenshots, and I'm just like completely giddy and just like, I can't believe. Have you looked at like side-by-side comparisons?
I don't think so, but I will say that I feel like the original game had this like kind of mist or this kind of fog to it, where I think that might be just the
brownish filter.
And that might have just been because of maybe the PS3 at the time.
Sure.
But yeah, I haven't seen any like direct other screenshots.
Well, I'll link it to you later. It is unreal. How, like, obviously, again, it's a two generation difference here that we're talking.
Yeah.
It is like the 4 screenshots they put out, and I cannot please show us this game in motion soon. I really want to see what this game looks like in motion, because the screenshots they put out at least are like, I cannot believe how much better it looks. And again, we can talk about like whether or not the mood's been changed, and like talk about their redesigns to bosses that people don't like. I'm fine with them for what it's worth, but like it just looks like insanely good. And I'm pumped. I'm super excited to play Demon Souls again. It's been a very long time since I've played it. I hope, like, I guess I wouldn't mind too much if they change a lot. I don't know, man. I don't know. Part of me just like wants to play it again and like play it in its form, like without that many changes. But I do expect there to be stuff changed. Like, I do expect certain parts of it to maybe feel different. I don't know.
Yeah, and I guess one thing that just came to mind was when Shadow of the Colossus PS4 came out, it was kind of a completely different control scheme. Do you think they will rework maybe the control scheme, kind of how things are used, the inventory, that kind of stuff in Demon Souls.
Yeah, and people have pointed out some things that they would like to see change, or things that like would be good quality of life improvements. So one is in the original Demon Souls, there wasn't just like equipment burden, right? Where it's like, oh, you can only have certain, like if you have super heavy equipment, you're gonna be slow. In Demon Souls, there was also like an item burden, so like you couldn't carry a certain number of items past your limit, and if you did, you wouldn't be able to pick up those items, and would be kind of a mess, and like inventory management was whatever. Another part is, in Demon Souls, you could potentially carry just like 99 of multiple different types of healing items, whereas in Dark Souls you had the Estus flask, and the Estus was a very limited number of healing items, and it was great because they could then take the difficulty and kind of mess with it based on knowing that you would only have a certain number of healing items available to you at any time. Whereas in Demon Souls, it's like you could potentially have 99. So people were talking like it'd be cool if they actually just put the Estus flask into this game. And I think control-wise as well, right? Like I think there's plenty of room for just like really good quality of life changes to just make it feel better. Because again, I haven't played this in a while, but I would not be surprised if that game feels really clunky to play these days, right?
Sure.
I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to update it to feel closer to maybe like Dark Souls 3. And I think generally people would probably be receptive to that. Another thing is, so Demon Souls is level based, whereas Dark Souls and games that came after it were interconnected worlds. Demon Souls had kind of a Mega Man vibe.
Yeah, it had like a hub world.
Yeah, you had you had the Nexus, which was the hub world, which is like one of the coolest locations in any of these games. The Maiden in Black was the person that like leveled you up through your souls. But there were different like stone like tablets or whatever that you would, or these archstones, and that's how you would enter each world. And there were 6 of them, but one of them was destroyed. That one was specifically like a level that they ended up cutting, and has since been data mined. So there's this like entire level that was never in the game, never finished, but people have data mined it. There's YouTube videos showing the level. It's like a snow area. And what people have pointed out in this trailer is that they pretty prominently show a snowy, mountainous region. And so there's been a lot of speculation that they might bring that back. That they might actually finish off, like, with the help of From Software, the cut content from the original game and include it in the remake. If that's the case, like, that would be super cool to see.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is, like, a lot of that stuff, a lot of mechanics that people found through data mining is present in Dark Souls, which is kind of neat. I think that stuff is cool. Demon Souls had a thing called World Tendency, which we don't really have to get into here. It was a thing that was maybe presented not very well and kind of confusing. The long and short is that you could adjust the tendency of the world between light and dark. Basically, if you died in human form, the world tendency would shift towards the dark. If you did good things, it would shift towards the light. If it shifted towards the dark, the game became much harder. So you can kind of like, there was this like difficulty that you could adjust. But I know I certainly didn't understand it at the time, and I think that was the case for a lot of people. So it would be cool if they took a second crack at that. The other thing I'm blanking on now. It would be cool if they, World Tendency would be cool if they like played around with.
Maybe fleshed it out a little bit more, I guess.
Yeah.
Or streamlined it a little bit, maybe made it a little more understandable, I guess.
Yeah.
Without being in your face about it.
For sure.
But is that all you need to say with Demon Souls?
I think so. There was a lot of rumors that this was going to be a launch game. If it was, I feel like they certainly would have been touting it.
Yeah,
I don't think that's the case. I think I mentioned him earlier, Imran Khan, formerly Game Informer. I don't remember where he's writing at these days, but I saw him mention, I think on Twitter, that he had heard that it was intended to be released early in 2021, but wasn't sure if that was still the case or not. So, only thing I really want to know with it, not only thing, I would like for them to say, like, hey, I would like for someone to ask them and for them to answer, is From Software involved? Or are they like, is Miyazaki like consulting on this? Is he like giving feedback? Or are they like given their tacit approval and been like, yep, have at it, we approve? Or are they not involved at all? Like, I'd be curious to know. Because if they're not involved at all, that would be a little weird, I think. I know Fumito Ueda was involved in the Shadow of the Colossus remake. To what extent, I don't know, but he at least like was involved. So I would hope that From Software is as well, or at least Miyazaki is. Especially considering that it's like the game that
started all this.
That started everything. So for him as well, I would like to know that. I would like to see. And also, I would like to know, like, is this going to be a one-to-one thing, or like, what are your plans for this? Like, are you changing things? If so, what can you talk about? Like, I would like to at least know, maybe not everything. I would like to know if they're like, yeah, we're going to change stuff, or no, we want to be as true to it as we can.
Yeah, and this might not make sense, I guess, but I feel like with the Shadow of the Colossus one, it was like, yeah, you can change things, but if you can still like capture the essence of what Shadow of the Colossus was, like it's still going to be great. But I feel like with something like this, it's like that formula has to be perfect.
I feel like there's a lot of risk, right? Like if you change, even if it's small things you change, like I feel like it can really take away from like what that game is. And it's super interesting, right? Because like the Final Fantasy VII remake is something where it's like a totally different game, but like that's fine. It's fine that it is, for any given reason. I think Demon's Souls like I feel like you really like it. It's okay to change things, but it's still got to be pretty close to like what the core of that game is about.
Right.
And I think rightfully so. I think that's where a lot of the concern comes from right now. And hopefully once they start showing the game proper, like that concern will go away. Regardless, I'm beyond excited. Like I'll love it no matter what, most likely. And Bluepoint has a very solid track record. I have no reason to doubt them. At this point in time, I feel like I have no reason to doubt their capabilities. Yeah. So unless there are people at Bluepoint that are like, I don't actually like Demon's Souls, I want to make it my own thing, which I don't think is the case. I imagine there are people there who probably have a very deep respect for From Software and that game. Yeah. Have at it.
Yeah. Moving on to maybe about the final 4 games. We have Arcane Lyon's Deathloop, the second Bethesda game. We got some extra details coming out later that, this is also going to be a console exclusive for PlayStation 5. And I don't think they said it in the trailer, but you have here holiday 2020, or perhaps maybe
another like
holiday.
Potentially launch game.
Yeah. I did my I'll just say this. I did the the little pregame thing for talking about this, and I didn't even talk about Bethesda because I didn't expect anything Bethesda to show up here. And then basically to have them have 2 launch console launch games, meaning like, first on PlayStation. That's crazy to me. And again, I'm pretty sure like the Arcane Lyon is the actual Dishonored, not the Prey team, it's the Dishonored team. So like that's kind of like the main Arcane team.
You can very easily see it in this trailer.
Yeah, the teleportation.
Like obviously this isn't like this isn't, Dishonored's maybe a bit more stealthy, but like the blink system is in this game. It looks very much like you don't even have to know what this game is. If you see it, you're like, yeah, it looks a lot like Dishonored.
Yeah.
Which is great.
this is still the parts where I think we did our E3 thing last year, and I was like, I don't know anything about this game. And I think I know a little bit more, but I still don't know. And we kind of talked a little bit over text, but it's like, is there a campaign? Is it like level based? Is it like this Hotline Miami where like you really have to know what's going on?
Straight from them on the blog.
Oh.
The focus is on the campaign and the story.
Okay.
That campaign can be played with Juliana controlled only by the AI, or, and this is our recommendation, by a mix of AI and random players to experience the range of unpredictability and chaos that Juliana is capable of. So the crux of this game, again, is a time loop, hence the name. You're stuck on Black Reef Island, playing as Colt. Basically, you die, you then wake up again. I think I might be wrong, because when they revealed this, I think one of the things that was interesting that we probably talked about at the time is like it was clear that you would be able to play as Colt or Juliana, and it almost seemed as if both of them would have their own story. Now, this trailer and this reveal makes it seem like Colt is very much the main character, but at least in the reveal last year, it seemed like they both like had like an extensive story. Like perhaps they would both have a campaign. It doesn't seem like that's the case, but it does make me wonder. Like it makes it very much a setting of Juliana to be the villain, where at least in the reveal last year, they didn't seem like that was the case. Things may have changed, but the plot of this, as shown in the trailer, is that there were like these 8, I guess we'll call them assassins, that you eliminate 8 key targets, in a single loop. And end the endless cycle is how they word it. Now, not included in those 8 is Juliana. So it has a Dark Souls style invasion system, basically, or something similar to that, where you can hop into another player's game and take on the role of Juliana and hunt them down, and it can be kind of a cat and mouse kind of thing. Which one thing I was wondering about is like, I wonder if this is level based. Or like how open world this might be, because I was thinking about like how would it work if I invade, let's say, your game, right? Like, do I invade it and I'm like, oh, this is we're in chapter 7 here, so like this is that part of the game that we're gonna be doing like a cat and mouse chase on, or like I'm just curious how that works, but I guess we'll find out in time at some point.
Yeah. Just kind of like still watching the trailer right now, like I do still have that sense that like, okay, if it is like a straight up campaign and it's not level based, like are there checkpoints? Like do you like reach a certain point and you're like,
I also wonder how long it is.
Yeah. I mean, there isn't probably Dishonored. It's probably what, 15-20 hour games.
Sure.
Usually?
I mean, Dishonored, like you could probably get through pretty quick, but I think there's a lot of like, because there's so many ways that you can go about playing that game. It's by all means a very different kind of game. But I wonder if like, because if you think about, okay, you need to kill 8 targets in the same loop. Are there going to be like roguelike elements? Like how does, like when you die, is it a complete reset?
Oh, sure.
Or, like...
Do you keep upgrades that you got? Do you keep the weapons that you had?
A lot of questions. And if it, and so that part of that makes me wonder if it's maybe shorter. But also like it would be super cool to have a follow up from the Dishonored developer at launch.
Yeah. And I really would be interested to see how like the SSD works in here. Like if you die, if you can just like immediately start over again. They show the like rewinding back in time. Like if you die, you kind of like. They showed like the rewinding kind of thing. And
there's a super cool style in that trailer too that they used. And I'm wondering, it was definitely very present in the trailer and the edit, right? I wonder how present like it is in the game. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
It looks super cool.
Yeah. So the next game, we're both really excited for. I would say. Maybe the most intriguing part of this entire trailer was the first shot, which is his story comes to a close.
Yeah.
We're talking about Resident Evil what game? Oh, I didn't hear. What would you say, Curtis?
When that little like tagline popped up in my head, I said to myself, Chris Redfield.
Really? Okay.
Chris Redfield's story is over.
Yep. That might very well be what technically is Resident Evil Village. Is
so
that
one thing I will
correct?
say, sure, yeah, Resident Evil 8 Village, I think is how they're writing it.
See, and that was weird because I saw a official Capcom post that I think just said Resident Evil Village. So
maybe.
So that's what made me wonder if they were actually using 8 or not.
So the title on the PlayStation blog post about it is Fear Surrounds You and Resident Evil Village coming to PS5 in 2021. Scrolling through, yeah, I guess they haven't. In the post, like, they repeatedly refer to it as Resident Evil Village. This is so one thing I want to get out immediately is this trailer doesn't hold a candle to the Resident Evil 7 trailer.
Yeah, you don't have this "Go Tell Aunt Rhody" theme song that really brought it home.
I think it is actively a worse trailer than the 7 one.
I would agree with that.
Not saying it's a bad trailer.
Yeah.
So a few things, right? One is I think this is a really good example of a game that like I would love to know what I like. I want to like live in a world or visit a timeline where we see this game and this is the first time we're hearing about it.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of leaks leading up, a lot of like pretty detailed leaks about what this game is, what it was as Revelations 3, and what it then became because of like really positive playtesting, and how there was a Resident Evil 8, but they like it wasn't going super well, so it was shelved. But then like this version of Revelation 3 was playtesting super well, so they've been reworking it a lot to become Resident Evil 8, and it's going to be a pretty big departure. There's werewolves now, and like that's pretty different, and there's witches, and so like I feel like a lot of it's like been preparing us mentally to be like, hey, this is gonna be different.
Yeah.
Almost even more so than 7 was, right? Like 7, despite it being first person, like pretty point for point is a Resident Evil game, like a very classic Resident Evil game. And this one, like, it's very unclear now, right? Like, there's a lot of this trailer that screams, what if Resident Evil 4 was, like, scary?
Yeah.
What if it was, like, more gothic? What if it was more, like, dark? And not, like, goofy, I guess? I don't know. But, yeah, like, the other thing, right, is I think everyone was expecting this to be cross-gen, and it, by all accounts, does not seem to be.
Yeah.
It does say 2021, and so again, like, we really expected this to be another, like, here's another Resident Evil, and it's out in 7 months. But, like, they're like, yeah, it's tentatively 2021. I don't know. I was like, this could be far away. Like, this could actually be a little farther away than we were expecting it to be. Because parts of it looks rough, I think. Like,
yeah, I would agree with that parts of it does somewhat look rough. Like, even, like, again, 30 frames per second, whatever, stream, but it looked like some of the frame rate drops, even just in the presentation, it seemed like. Like the part where he's, like, pulling out the curtain and then, like, the guy shoots, it just feels like the game really slows down in that part. I do find it interesting that, yeah, I mean, when I saw this, I was like, okay, this is probably going to be, like, early 2021 game, because that's how RE7, RE2, or RE3. But I've noticed that when we did actually get the RE7 and RE2 announcements in June, like now, they actually did have firm release dates on them. Yeah. And this does not have a firm release. And I don't know, because nothing else in this presentation had a firm release date. Yeah,
there was a lot, like I talked about it earlier, there was a lot of times where towards the end of the trailer, I was like, all right, when's it out? And there was just nothing, not even a year. And we didn't get years for a lot of these games until the PlayStation blog post. This was one I was really expecting, like, a date. I was really expecting, like, all right, January, February, what are we talking?
Yeah.
So a couple things I want to mention. I'm super down for, like, werewolves, witches. Like, I'm super down for this. I think the shots of, like, the castle, There's some pictures on the blog posts of just like the scene, like the scenery, right? Like there's like you can see a windmill, you can see the castle in the background. It like looks like Bloodborne in some parts. Again, like super heavy Resident Evil 4 vibes. But again, like darker, right? Like I feel like it's really like getting out a lot of things that are right up my alley.
Yeah.
There's like some interesting characters you see in there.
Yeah, it seemed like be a big cast of characters, a lot more than maybe RE7.
A lot more than 7. They mention like a focus on, I think the term is like heavier action and exploration, which is interesting. I don't think it like. I do still expect there to be puzzles and things like that for like that are inherent to Resident Evil. One thing I will say is like I don't mind, and I do expect to some extent that this is a red herring with Chris Redfield, that like they're gonna pull the rug out from under us, that like something weird's up. I don't know that I believe that Chris Redfield is like now a villain and will be.
Sure.
But also, and like I don't even know that I was married to his design in Resident Evil 7. But like you gotta make up your mind, man.
See, this is my I think remember talking in our Resident Evil 7 spoiler cast however long ago that I don't know if that's the real Chris Redfield. And so I'm still on this soapbox, pie in the sky, tinfoil hat. The Chris Redfield in Resident Evil 7 is not the same Chris Redfield than it is in all of the other games and Resident Evil 8. Because the Resident Evil 8 design actually looks like he is...
It's closer to 5, right?
Yeah,
like
it is closer to 5. Yeah, and 6.
Yeah.
But yeah, like because then the one in 7 looks absolutely nothing like him. So now I'm just like thinking like, oh, that it isn't the real Chris. Like they actually... It's an imposter working for this fake umbrella or something, like Neo Umbrella thing.
If they're leading into something like that, then okay. Sure.
Yeah.
And even then, I don't know how I feel about that. But
so we're playing as Ethan.
Yep.
Winters again.
Winters.
And is it Mia? Is that his? Was
Mia.
That his wife, girlfriend? Mm-hmm. Are we assuming that that's who Chris shoots like 5 times?
I mean, it seems to be.
Yeah.
But again, right? Like this is a trailer, right? Like it really feels like they could easily be like, we're gonna make it seem like that's the case, but you know, it's a cut to that happening, and so you see a woman on the floor being shot, and given Ethan's reaction, you would assume that that is who it is. But in the trailer, we see other women in that trailer, right? Like very easily could be someone else.
Yeah. Very
easily could not be. So I don't know, and also like it feels almost like part of this setting and like setup for this game is like, oh, they've been reunited and they've traveled to Louisiana and they're living their life happy. So it seems like especially cruel.
Yeah.
But who knows? Well, I don't know. Maybe.
Did you watch the there's like a little extra developer thing on YouTube on the
I watched a little bit of it, yeah.
There's a part in the trailer where it's like this heart brain thing, and then it's got like 4 wings of an eagle. Like it almost looks like some kind of like Hunger Games symbol in like one of the books or something like that. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about specifically. But there's a part in that developer diary thing that they were like, we don't like, this actually has a lot of secrets to it, and they said something about like, we don't even know if we even like, we debated even
we didn't want to show it.
Yeah. And so I'm looking at, of course, like how am I supposed to look at this and get anything out of it? But is there a chance this is the Resident Evil 4 village? Like, is there some weird chance that this is, they go to Europe again to like Spain or something, and this is the RE4 village?
Maybe.
I want it to be, but yeah, I agree.
There was like a little bit of me for maybe a couple seconds where I was like, what if this is just RE4?
This is 4 remake.
Yeah, obviously not. but like when you saw that castle, I was like, dude. And have you seen the shot of like the inside of the mansion or perhaps castle? there's like a foyer shot where like there's a staircase, and like that shot looks incredible. You know, we've known the RE engine to look really good. That is like a really good example of why that game, like why that engine, of how good those games can look. So yeah, I'm pretty excited. I would love to see some more. Yeah, I'd like to see some more stuff
and
of it soon.
I love the you know, we talk about Robert Eggers. I love the Black Phillip cameo of the black goat showing up. I don't know. I saw that and I thought of you. I thought it was kind of cool. But yeah, again, no VR mention, which I don't know if this is the place to do it or not. Maybe later on they'll say. But
so here's the thing, right? Is like, if this is all we knew of the game, I would be pretty like adamant that they're like, oh yeah, this will definitely have VR. But given what we know and like how much they've supposedly, like, if everything we've heard is true, that this wasn't originally Resident Evil 8, that this was Revelations 3, and it was actually totally, it was a very different, and it had different characters, and like they've reworked a lot. If all that is true, then like I don't think VR will be a part of this.
Yeah, because you feel like you probably have to build it from like the ground up to be in VR, which is surprising. Just how big of a success RE7 was in VR, and even like you watch.
I could see there being a push for it, right? Like it makes sense, but I don't know. One last thing on my mind, which is always, you know, especially with Resident Evil, we expecting any cameos in this?
You mean like a Barry or something like that?
Oh, I love Barry Burton.
Yeah. Of course, you know, like you have the things that like if Leon is in a game, you're probably getting like a Claire. And so you kind of think that if a Chris is in it, you might get a Jill in it. I would expect maybe so. I would maybe think maybe towards the end of the game, like 7 was. Maybe you'll get a gun at the very end of the game with another boss's name on it or something.
Especially if we're thinking like, if the setup here is that Chris is like going rogue, right? Like, you know, we got teases of like a Neo Umbrella in 7. Like, you would think that this would be the game that we would dive a little deeper into that. And so maybe it's not just Chris. I don't know. Maybe there's other people who have like moved to this Neo Umbrella syndicate or whatever. Only time will tell.
I think we need more like Revelation style games to fill in. Like, how did this, or probably they'll do it in like a CG movie or something, but it's like, how did this Neo Umbrella thing form, and how, you know, all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, Resident Evil 9 will be like, and Neo Umbrella fell, and so now in the aftermath, and you'll be like, what?
But,
cool. So let's move on to the last 2 games here.
Yeah, so I don't know if you know this, but this next game is also a Capcom game.
It is, yeah, I know.
I knew that. I don't know if I didn't know if you did see it at the very end of the trailer where it said it at the bottom. That's where I originally saw it.
The trademark for Pragmata was like tweeted around a little bit before this event.
Oh, okay, so I didn't see that. So. But yeah, Pragmata. I thought it was some Luden's Death Stranding thing.
I really thought it was a Kojima game.
Yeah.
I think, and we're not alone in that for sure.
Yeah, because I saw it and I was like, yeah, that's the Luden's character, and like, cause like
it looks a lot like it.
Yeah, like the very first shot of like Death Stranding, they're showing Kojima Productions is like him on the moon with a flag and in that suit, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be it. Like he's in space.
What if it's like a Joaquin Mogren or however you pronounced it, like level of troll where he's like gotten Capcom to get on board with him just messing with everyone.
I'm in for this. Yeah, go on.
so this trailer is really like weird and cool, and it definitely, you know, considering the year that we got at the end of the trailer, probably reasons for it being very vague and unclear what the heck this game even is.
Yeah.
There's like the guy in the spacesuit, and he's got the helmet that looks kind of like the helmet for the Koji Pro Productions dude. And then there's a girl who's like seemingly has some kind of powers. And I think the guy has powers too. He shoots some weird net stuff going on. There's like it's like Vanquish level weird
hologram cat
happening.
you can see the insides of.
Yeah, there's a cat that like phases in and out, and you can see the skeletal structure and muscle structure of the cat. And then they're on the moon.
This seems very Kojima-esque kind of thing. Yeah. Be interested to see what Capcom team.
And then 2022.
Yeah, and then, basically in 2022. I mean, we didn't get anything else about this, and probably not for maybe like a year and a half.
Yeah.
Might not hear anything else about this game. And of course, you might not even hear if any last Capcom game announced at a console reveal is any indication. You might not hear about this game at all.
We could be sitting here in 2026 going like, Pragmata's gonna be there. I'm telling you, like this is the one.
Yep. Pretty much.
Remember, like we saw there was like that little bit of footage at the TGS in 2021. It was real. It was a real game.
Capcom has renewed the trademark in 2032 for Pragmata. It's happening. But we are finally on to our last game, and I wasn't 100% sure until you hear Ashley Birch talking.
It was for me, it was like a moment of pride, where I was like watching. I kind of assumed, right? It's like you see the start of the trailer, you can kind of see the art style. You're like, figure Horizon's here. We're at the end of this, like, but it was cool to be able to like pick her voice out and go like, no, that's Ashley Birch. This is Horizon.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
Bring it on.
Looks like to be some underwater elements. Of course, talking about Horizon. So it was really weird because it looks like there's in the logo there's the like Roman numeral 2.
Yeah.
But it is just Horizon Forbidden West, which it just feels like this world that they're presenting here in the West is just so much grander in its scope.
There's a Golden Gate Bridge in the background in one of the screenshots. There's like pterodactyls now.
Oh wow!
And like someone pointed out that it looks like they have like a place to sit on them.
You can like ride them or something.
Yeah, which would be awesome. Like,
we got underwater.
It looks unbelievable.
Yeah,
like it's one of those things where anyone else, right? You would be like, that's not real.
Yeah,
but I believe everything in that trailer. I totally believe. I don't see any reason not to think that that's what that game looks like.
Yeah, I was really kind of excited to see Lance Reddick's Silence, I believe that's his name, back from the original game. Was kind of teased at the very end. I thought that was kind of cool because
Did you play any of the DLC?
Yeah, the Frozen Wilds. Yeah, I beat that.
I did not play that. How extensive story stuff is that? Do you think there's stuff in that would tie into this?
I don't think so at all. It really is just long and short of it is here's the main game of Horizon Zero Dawn. Here's the big overall enemy, but then Frozen Wilds is oh yeah, but then there's this other weird thing happening over here, and it's just its very own. I don't think there's anything. There's nothing I could see from Frozen Wilds that would connect to this at all.
And I mean the end of Zero Dawn is a very direct. This is where we're headed.
Right. Yep.
Cool. I'm glad that they didn't put a 2. I think a lot of people made fun of the title Zero Dawn, right? And then we realized what that meant. And that was a really cool story beat, and the story of that game is, I think, really interesting. And from the sound of it, Forbidden West doesn't necessarily sound like it will be another major revelation of oh yeah, Project Forbidden West.
Oh yeah, right.
Like Zero Dawn was, but I'm glad that I'm glad that they're just doing other titles. I want that to just be the Horizon's thing. But yeah, I'm also they've clearly they've had a lot of time to be working on this. So I'm curious how far away this is. If this is a 2021 game, which I would bet on at the very least, towards maybe fall 2021. But I wonder if it might be earlier. I don't know. I wonder if there's a chance that this could be spring next year. I would probably say, I would say spring to early summer 2021. You're looking at you'd be looking at 4.25 years after, granted,
jumping console generations, but since Zero Dawn. I would have loved if we got like a little bit more like actual like gameplay, like it's over the shoulder, here's Aloy interface shooting robots kind of thing, but of course can't ask for it all. I'm sure we'll get that. Maybe even in the next coming months before the console even launches, maybe we'll get
that'd be cool. Like it seems like people rumor, or I don't know if it's officially been announced, like they've made it clear that this is the first start of them like talking about PS5 and that there's going to be many more events. It sounds like August is going to be a state of play. Where we'll probably get more new games announced. There is an indication that I saw that like this is by no means the entirety of their first year for PS5. There were some people saying like, yeah, they got a lot coming. Which will be cool, but I would love to see extended looks at some of these other games. Like I would like to see more Ratchet. I would like to see more Horizon, Demon Souls, obviously. With sprinkle in some new announcements as well. Maybe a Silent Hill game. I don't know. But yeah, man, like one thing that was really cool about Horizon when it was first shown is that we had like a pretty extensive gameplay demo of it. So it would have been cool to have the same situation here, but I think at the same time, like now it's a known thing. Now I think it's more about just like getting it out there, saying this, we're doing it. It's coming. This is what it is.
So that was it for the games.
Yep,
I will
that was it.
say
there was nothing else.
Yeah, there's nothing else. I will say, I mentioned earlier, if I was a betting man, I would have sold my car. I would have mortgaged my house. I would have sold all my belongings, sold my PS4. That Call of Duty would have been here. And it was not. Like as someone who does like Call of Duty, I guess I had the benefit
shocked. of seeing someone on Twitter being like, Call of Duty won't be there.
Okay. Yeah, see, I didn't seen that. But it's just like it would have been it's never been this long before they've revealed a game before. But I just was it was really weird because I was like right at the very end I was like, okay, that's it, and I was like, we didn't see Call of Duty, like holy cow. I just thought it was really weird that they hadn't shown that off, and of course being with the PlayStation marketing bucks and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, any other game real quick that you were surprised wasn't here?
So, well, okay. Before we do that, there was one other I wanted to mention.
Okay.
Because it wasn't in this, but it's a game that was announced, I think a year ago, actually. But we hadn't heard from in a while. This came up on the PlayStation blog after the showcase. Weird that it wasn't in the show.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about, yeah.
But there's a couple that showed up on the blog afterwards, and it was like, why wasn't this there? Like, what? The game The Pathless, which is from Giant Squid. They did Abzu. So this was a game that was announced actually a while ago. I don't remember exactly when. Yeah. But they announced that is coming to PS5 and PS4. And I'm scrolling through really briefly to see, I believe they mentioned that that's also holiday 2020.
Okay. Yeah, because I think that game might be on Apple Arcade. Because I do know, like, when I've seen Apple Arcade highlights, they highlight that game. They mention
no loading screens on PS5. Actually, no. I guess I don't see anything on this post about holiday 2020. Oh no, will be released later this year. Okay. They just phrased it differently. Gotcha. Which is cool. I loved Abzu, and I thought this game looked super cool. So I'm excited that it wasn't just like gone forever. Yeah. But to get to your question, I believe that there is a Silent Hill game being made.
I'd agree. Yeah.
It just feels like with there's smoke, there's fire, right? And like, seems like there's a lot of smoke right now. Yeah. I guess to one extent, right? It's like, well, you have you got some horror games in there, so maybe you can hold it, and maybe it's actually a little ways off. maybe we see it in August. I don't know. I was a little surprised that it wasn't there because it really felt like it was. But again, it also felt like maybe the opposite of Demon Souls, where there was just a ton of people talking about it, where there was no merit for that.
Yeah.
Couple other like weird things where like I didn't really have any reason to believe they would be there, but I was thinking about it. Back in like January or maybe even before that, there was I think it was January. There was a interview with Tetsuya Nomura, and he was talking about, hey, there's like, we got a couple Kingdom Hearts games being made. There's actually one that's like going to be announced a lot sooner than you expect, and it's actually closer to release than anyone thinks. The mobile game was announced afterwards, but he clarified like, no, it's not the mobile game. It's like another thing. And I, again, Nomura time. But that was like 6 months ago, so I was kind of expecting like, oh, we might see it around the E3 time frame. Nothing, so that was kind of surprising, or maybe not surprising, but I was like, okay. Other things I thought might be, like, I really thought there might be a chance that Final Fantasy 16 would show up, just because like there is a history there of announcing a new Final Fantasy with a new PlayStation console. I guess there's still time to do that. What else? What was the other thing? It's been a long time. This is more wishful thinking on my part. We don't know what Yoko Taro is working on.
Yeah, true.
It's been a long time. Babylon's Fall is another one where it's like, I think we saw that kind of recently, but that's another game that like, what is going on with that game? Where is it?
Yeah.
So I was thinking of other games that like we hadn't seen in a while that may have moved to PS5. But honestly, like, I think this is a stellar lineup for this like first initial showcase. It's one of the few times that I can honestly say that like almost every single thing on this list is something I'm interested in. Yeah,
I would agree. Yeah. And I feel like I get that way sometimes just because it's like a new console or whatnot. But there's plenty here that I was excited about. But before we get to the final thing, do you want to give like your top three? We could do like a top three.
Sure. So definitely so Demon Souls, Kenna, Bridge of Spirits. My other it's a top three is really hard.
We could do 5 if you want. I was just thinking maybe just 3 because I
have 7.
I have other ones that I could also put on here too.
I will just read off like the tweet I made and cheat. Because like I think part of me wants to focus on like some of the indie stuff, right? That we didn't know about. But for me, like my highlights were Spider-Man, Ratchet, Sackboy, Kenna, Volcano High, Solar Ash, Bugsnax, Demon Souls, Resident Evil 8, and Horizon. And actually Little Devil Inside. I thought looks really cool.
I feel like I'd have to go Ratchet 1.
It's definitely, I think, the best showing.
Yeah, I think so too. I would probably put Spider-Man 2. 3, if I had to go 5, I'd probably say 3, Resident Evil 8. 4, I would say 4, I'd probably put something like weird like Bugsnax on there. And then 5, I want to say the Astros Playroom, but knowing that that's a pack-in game. Not saying that's diminishing in its value, I guess, but I would probably then go Sackboy there with mine. And again, like, I'm excited for something like Horizon, but it's not... The first game just didn't grab me in a huge way. So, like, I'll be excited to see more. Like, whenever they release more information, I'll watch it.
Horizon's probably one of my favorite, like, Sony first-party PS4 games. By, like, one of, if not my favorite. Yeah. Barring The Last of Us Part 2 this week. Yeah. This next week, which sounds like it's pretty good. But... like I think the thing for me with Horizon is like we knew we were getting it, like we know it's coming, like we'll see more when we see more. I think it's stuff like the stuff that we didn't know, right? Like Kenna just coming out of nowhere and looking as good as it does was super cool. Like we kind of figured there was a Ratchet and Clank game, but for it to show up and then just like be the best looking game and best showing, like that's awesome. We knew that there was there would be more Spider-Man, but we didn't know that we were going to get like an expansion with Miles Morales, and it was going to be this year. Like that's really cool and exciting. So that stuff inherently is just going to catch my interest more. But yeah, and Demon Souls.
So here's the moment.
Sure.
The black and blue orbs rustling around for however
over an
long.
hour.
It was a Twitch stream after the showcase where we just watched it for an hour, and then it formed into the PlayStation 5.
There's no load times on any of the games, but it does take an hour to turn on. So
true.
you you win some, you lose some, I guess. But
so let's just start this in order. What'd you think of the console?
It's cool. I like it.
Yeah,
it looks like a router, but I like it quite a bit. I'm kind of into it just being a weird goofball thing. Wasn't expecting the second one.
Yeah. I don't know if I was either. The digital edition.
Well, we kept hearing all this stuff about Lockhart, and we never really heard anything about a second digital only SKU for PS5.
Yeah.
And I feel like that then that sets for a pretty interesting duo, I guess, right? Of so Lockhart, because I feel like what we've heard about Lockhart is not just that it's a digital only box, but that it's different, that it's not, for lack of a better word, weaker than Series X.
Yeah. And
so they came out later and clarified that, hey, the digital version of PS5 is the same thing.
Yeah.
It's the same components, same everything. It's just there's no disk drive. So it'd be interesting to me to see is Lockhart the same exact box just without a disk drive, or is there more stuff going on where there's they also removed other it's lesser components or something. I don't know. Which then sets up pricing stuff. Go ahead.
I was gonna say my guess has got to be $50 difference, right? I mean, and the only reason I say that is just that, and again, I'm just using in the past, but the Xbox One all digital edition was only $50 the last, so it's not going to be. I don't think it's going to be this huge $100 difference that some people are expecting.
Sure. I could see. So my expectation is 500 and 450.
Yeah, you can see that.
That's kind of what I'm preparing myself for mentally, as someone who plans to buy this when it comes out later this year.
Yep.
God willing. Because part of me really still thinks there's a very good chance that we hit September and they're we got to push these back.
I can see that. Yeah.
And I guess I think it probably just all depends on is there a second wave of COVID? Or not if, but how bad is it, right? If it's not as bad as we expect, then maybe we're in the clear and things are going to be fine, but maybe it's really bad.
Yeah.
And so it might be a thing of this is not a good time to launch.
Yeah.
And maybe it becomes March or something. Hopefully not, right? Hopefully that's not the case, but part of me still thinks there's a very good chance that would happen. I know that right now both companies are very much it's coming out this year, but that's what Atlas was saying about Persona 5 until it wasn't. Until it was October, and they were yeah, you kind of figured it's not coming this year though.
Yeah.
This is always an opportunity. I think with a console, it's got to be I think at this point though, I don't think you can cut it that close. Sure. I think if we hit August, right, and they haven't pushed it, I don't think it's getting pushed.
Yeah.
But I do think that there's a chance that it could be $100 difference, only because, and this is vague to me, but I do remember 400 for the PS4 was a surprise.
Yeah.
I do remember that was legitimately, I remember people thinking it'd be 450, 500, similar, because the Xbox was 500, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I remember that being a shock. And so I do think, while conventional wisdom says both of these boxes probably come in at 450, 500, somewhere in that range, I do think there's a chance one of them does something crazy. Like, I don't think you see anything less than 400 unless a Lockhart is like substantially different, right? Like if there's actually like a lot more that we don't know about, or maybe that we do through rumors and it's not just discless, like there's a chance maybe that's pretty cheap. But I don't know. I could see them being like, you know, PlayStation 5 $4.99. But if you would like to, if you prefer going digital, we'll be offering the digital version for $3.99.
Sure.
And that just being a thing of like, we will take a larger loss on that because these people are just going to buy exclusively digital, and we're going to make more money that way. Mm-hmm. So like, that's the reason why I could see it being a $100 difference. But if I were to be like, this is my bet, it would be 500 and 450.
One thing I'm noticing, or I guess I'll even say like one of the first things I did notice, in addition to with the disc and the disc version and the non-disc version, I feel like this was designed for a digital edition first, because like when seeing them side by side, the digital edition looks so much more sleeker and slimmer, like just as a design aspect than the one with the disc, because like the disc one looks like it has like a bulge. That it's not like they designed that one first. Like it looks like they designed the digital one first and then designed what an edition of a disc drive would look like. I mean, Of course, I'm not a designer that has to put all these parts in this box for a cost, but it just seems like the digital one looks more of like a symmetrical, straightforward, like appealing box than what the disc one looks like. And looking at them side by side, because they have them both on their stands, and it actually looks like there's two different stands almost. Like it looks like the one with the disc has like a little bit more of like a bigger stand on the left side, whereas the stand on the digital looks like more kind of flat, which I just thought that was kind of interesting.
I hope it comes with a stand.
That would be nice. They say it can be laid on its side.
And there's pictures of it.
It just doesn't look elegant, though. Like,
no,
it looks like there's a curve on it.
It's like I think it's the first time ever. Or I guess like that's going to be the case for both these consoles, right? Because they definitely look like they're designed to be vertical.
Right.
Where that maybe typically isn't the case. Like this will be the first time ever that I'm like, yeah, vertical. This guy's standing up.
Has the addition of a USB-C port on the front, as long as with a USB on there. Don't know anything about the back. I think maybe the PS4 Pro has a USB on the back, but like just using my launch
I think it does.
Because that's 3 total. So like using my launch PS4 and having either the VR headset and then an external hard drive and then a dongle for a headset. Like I've only got 2 USB ports. Like I need more, and I'd have to go buy like an adapter for, which is not a big deal, but I always prefer more USB ports.
Sure.
So hopefully there's like 1 or 2 extras on the back.
One thing I was, and again, very likely reasoning for this is because of the situation we're in currently. But like, and I will say, like, I think Digital Foundry did like a really cool video of the 3 of them just watching the showcase and talking over it.
Yeah. And
there's a lot of like cool insights from them. But it's really missing like a teardown video from Digital Foundry, right? Like,
sure, like they did with the Xbox One one.
Yeah, I would love for like that. X. Yeah, for that to be the case. And obviously, like, there's a very good reason for why that can't happen right now.
Yeah.
But it's a bummer that we don't have that, right? Because it would be really cool to see that. And I'm sure come August we'll probably have something. They might just even do one themselves if they need to.
Yeah.
But yeah, like
Sid Schuman's gonna do it himself.
There have been like people who put together like side by sides of like this and the Xbox Series X and the PS4 and the Xbox One, and from those, like this seems to be the biggest of all of them. I would love size dimensions.
Yeah, apparently this thing is pretty big.
I don't know if they put these out. I would love dimensions of this, which is like something I thought I would never say. I have my like our entertainment center like with the TV and everything. We're using one of those. I think it's like the Calyx IKEA stands. They're like pretty commonly seen in the background of like YouTuber videos. It's just like the grid of square like cubby holes basically.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this will fit. Like basing it off how much bigger it is, even if I stood it up, I don't know if it will fit. And so I would really love to know.
Yeah.
Like in inches or something, how tall this thing is.
Right. And even if we knew how tall the controller was, we could extrapolate how many, controllers it takes, something like that, but we have no idea. It does look like even the DualSense is a little bit taller, I guess, let's say, than the DualShock 4. Yeah, I mean, hopefully later we'll get, just a blog post or, Jim Ryan in a room holding it and just like spinning it around and here's what it looks like, that kind of stuff around the full sides. I just think I figured this console was going to be white once the controller was white. I couldn't see the console being. I do think in the future there's going to be like a black version, probably, like especially with like special editions and whatever. But I mean, ever since the PS3, I mean, the PS4 was really sleek, and I think this also looks pretty sleek. I just think the regular base PS5 with the disc tray just looks like it's just bulging out a little more, where the actual router looks better.
Yeah.
We got a couple accessories then. We got the DualSense charging station. So you can charge your $90 DualSense controllers, and you can charge two of them. Is it weird that when we were talking about, I was thinking about when we were talking about Sackboy Big Adventure, like, it's 4-player, and like, man, who's going to have 4 DualSense controllers?
I mean, so what's your plan though, right? Like, because my plan right now is PS5, 2 controllers, or like, and 1 additional one, right?
Yeah.
And I guess that's it for accessories.
Yeah. We got our new camera. The new, I think they just call it the HD camera is their word. I would expect I would expect that not to necessarily be the new, like, I guess I would say to do the tracking on the old PlayStation VRs, that would be the new camera, though I kind of expect when PSVR 2 comes out, I would expect it to have inside out tracking. So I don't even know if it will even use that camera setup. It might not.
Are you for the digital, or are you gonna go with the big boy?
I think I gotta go for the big boy, I think.
Okay. I was thinking digital, but then I was like, well, I do have a rather large collection of 4K Blu-rays that would be good to be able to use.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. Like, I mean, I've been selling some of my like previous like collector's editions that I've bought over the years, and I mean, there's a great feeling of getting rid of stuff, but I just
buy
like
2
physical.
of them. I guess I'll just buy them both, and
yeah, your PlayStation Now and PlayStation Plus games machine, and then you got to buy that big old $200 Demon Souls collector's edition that comes out.
Oh man,
But
if it's like $100 difference, I think it would be. I would have to think about it.
That'd be really appealing for sure.
Yeah, if it's a $50 difference, I don't see me not getting the disc version at that point.
Yeah, and I think something like, and I don't, obviously I would say PlayStation Now isn't up to the level that something like Game Pass is. I think it's getting there for sure.
Yeah.
But buying, like, if you wanted an extra, like, if I would say, like, I just want to, get into the Xbox ecosystem, I would even consider buying that Xbox One all digital edition and just buying something like Game Pass Ultimate that has Xbox Live Gold and Game Pass and just playing that. Like, there's no, I mean, I would say with PlayStation Now and PlayStation Plus and like the free games that we get with PlayStation Plus and the subscription of Now and whatnot, I probably play the majority of my games digital, but I still like buying my new games physical. Like, if that makes sense, I guess. Like, I would
it's always good to have the choice.
Yeah, I agree.
Is there ever a sale
Yeah.
And it's like, oh man,
Yeah.
Horizon Forbidden West is $20 right now, but on the store it's 60.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, other than that, we just got the new Pulse 3D wireless headset, so we can go. I'm still rocking my Pulse Elite headphones from 2012 or whatever that was. They're kind of falling apart, but so maybe that's my excuse to buy a new audio headset or something. But yeah, that is the. Of course, we forgot about the media remote. Cannot forget about that.
Of course not.
That's going to be a system seller. Those white buttons, that volume rocker. I don't know. But yeah, that's kind of what we most. And I was kind of surprised we actually got to see some of the accessories. I thought that would just be like a blog post down the road.
When they started showing them, I was like, okay, they are going to do the price.
Yeah, and so even I was
so naive.
When they show it all lined up,
yeah.
when they show the controller, the digital, the regular headset, all that, they have the logo PlayStation 5 kind of in the upper right, and there's like a lot of white space in between the accessories at the bottom and then the PS5. Yeah. I thought they were gonna throw
and you know what? Maybe there's a version of this showcase out there that has it.
Maybe,
right?
Yeah.
Like,
well, it's like the same thing they talked about with the Mark Cerny talk. It's like, oh, there's room on the display to have PS3 and PS4 and PS1 games on it, you know, that kind of stuff. So
yeah.
But other than that, that was all she wrote. A little over an hour. I think it started a few minutes late, which it wouldn't be a Sony conference without it.
Of course, and in true, it was even better is that it's like a pre-recorded video.
Yeah, I know. I was telling my friend it was like 3:03 or 3:04, and I was like, it ain't a Sony conference unless it's late.
And in true fashion, we spoke at twice the length of the presentation itself.
Heck yeah, I mean, I love this stuff. I mean,
I can't wait for our Resident Evil 8 4-hour spoiler cast.
Well, I mean, like kind of like on a side tangent, like, you know, I'm a Kansas State fan, I live in Kansas, and like their football is like really big, of course, and it's like they have like a 3-hour pregame thing, and then they have the game that takes like 3 hours, and then they have like a whole like 3-hour postgame thing. It's like
it's a whole day.
Oh yeah, it's a whole day, and so I love this kind of stuff. But yeah, other than that, we just had Jim Ryan talking about. We have much more to show you. Sounds like probably that rumored August thing is when it's going to be. I'm sure I would expect some news in July, like maybe a next additional blog post or something like that.
I'm hoping that, I mean, you know, I can't speak towards like Sony first party, but I hope that now that this has happened, you know, now we'll reach the point where like, okay, we've shown a lot of games for it. We've seen gameplay. We've seen the system. We've seen that. Like, I'm hoping now other third parties and indie developers are like free reign to just like announce stuff. Yeah. We have, you know, like on Monday, we know that we're going to be seeing this new Star Wars game.
Yeah.
We have the Ubisoft thing isn't until July, but the EA is having the EA Play next week, Thursday.
I forgot about that.
It's Thursday night, so like we're gonna see stuff there. So like there is that, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm hoping that also means like other studios will get out there and talk and show things. Which actually, to wrap up really quick before we end, if you want to talk about things that I am genuinely surprised we have not seen, maybe not even at this showcase, but not seen yet in this year, there are two things that come to mind.
Okay.
You want to take a stab in the dark?
Well, I could probably guess what you're thinking.
Go for it.
Harry Potter.
Yeah.
And WB.
Yeah, Montreal. whatever Rocksteady's doing, basically.
Okay, yeah.
Or I guess Montreal as well.
Yeah, because like, Montreal is teasing the Batman, and who knows what Rocksteady's up to. Yeah.
Like, and then so that happens, and then we also get this news story last night that their AT&T is looking to sell the Warner Brothers gaming division.
Yeah, I saw that.
So who even knows what that means for those games? But like, and maybe that's why we haven't seen anything, because maybe there's some weird stuff going on. But man, like, really thought at least one of those games would be at this showcase.
Mm-hmm.
Like, really thought that would be the case. I know Jason Schreier, I think on Twitter earlier today, was like, a lot of you were asking, Harry Potter game's still in development. I have no clue when they're going to show it. It was just like, that was it.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I mean, all right.
Yeah.
Guess we'll see it when we see it. But man, like, at least for WB Montreal, like, they've been teasing something for a while, and then they stopped. So maybe something happened, but like even like late last year, they were just doing all kinds of teasing.
Yeah,
for
like
something,
Court
and
of
just
Owls
nothing.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, I don't know, maybe like it's getting to a point where like, especially with Rocksteady, right? Like that is now becoming this like mythic status, similar to like a Last Guardian or Final Fantasy 15, where it's like, yeah, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Like, we know they're working on something. Who knows? It's been forever.
Yeah.
But we're in it. Next gen is closing in.
It's kind of here.
Just few handful of months away.
Well, I'm glad it finally took 2 hours and 30 minutes to get to this point. But Curtis, where is my Nintendo Direct?
Well, we got a new Paper Mario trailer.
Yeah, we did. An overview kind of thing. We got some new stuff. Ooh. Are we going to talk about that? Like, are we going to do a separate thing?
I don't know if we need to.
What if we did like every new release of something Paper Mario, and then we we had our own like whatever like people do like with
Paper
the book
Mario
club.
Origami Club.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
and we make origami live on the air.
I thought this new trailer looked quite good.
Yeah, I did too.
I'm getting excited for it.
Yeah, it kind of showed some of the old stuff we saw in the original trailer, but yeah, also new stuff as well. But chances that comes to PlayStation 5, probably negative 0.8%.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Blue Point will do a remake of it in 11 years.
Exactly. And it'll be they'll tease it on Twitter for 3 years before it happens.
Yes.
But anyways, that has been the post game for this wonderful event. Still humming the Bug Snack song. Really enjoyed what they showed. The friend I watched it with, he always feels like he's kind of hard to impress because he was like, I don't know, some of this stuff's kind of cool, but I think the more I've sat with it, the more I've really enjoyed things here. Like stuff like Ghostwire Tokyo has really sat with me. That's really intrigued me. So, do you have any other last words? Do you have any other hopes, dreams, beliefs?
So I was scrolling through Twitter just now to see if anything came out, because earlier today there was the PC gaming show, and then there was
13 Sentinels thing was yesterday, I think.
13 Sentinels got a release date, which is cool. That's another game that's been a long time coming.
Yep.
But then there's also this like future gaming thing that was, I think, just wrapped up from Games Radar, I think. And I saw that I guess Kenna was there, Bridge of Spirits, and the looks like they might have shown some more footage of that. So I think following this, I'm gonna go look up and see if there's more Kenna gameplay out there.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll hopefully get a lot more. Again, we talked about like disappointing we're not getting like behind closed doors demos and like Game Explain with their off-screen footage, like recording all this stuff and whatnot. But hopefully we can get back to that.
Persona 4 Golden's on PC right now.
Yeah, that's cool. Crazy. Vita Lucen's an exclusive. I mean, what are we gonna do? I don't know. But again, thanks so very much for watching, listening. We'll be back with more, I'm sure, PlayStation thoughts. Xbox up next, more than likely in July with first party. Be excited for that.
Yep.
Until then, may all of your wishes come true. Welcome to Next Gen.